Please don't skip ahead yet. Hi, this is your friendly neighborhood 80 slasher librarian, Josh LaRue. Just need a moment of your time. A lot of people don't know, but we're not able to monetize the channel here on YouTube due to the fact that the copyright holders of the books I narrate, the movies we riff, they get the ad revenue, and also being a partner on YouTube involves a lot of rules and censorship, and to do so would make it where a lot of the content, the audiobooks, the riffs, would have to be heavily censored or deleted completely. So we depend on amazing slashaholics like you to help fund the channel and keep it going and growing for years to come. And there's several fun ways to do that. You could join our Patreon right up there. And as a patron, you can join for as low as like $2, $5, $10 a month, on up as high as you want, and enjoy a lot of cool gifts like free ebooks, early access, exclusive content, even voicing characters and audiobooks here on the channel. You could also go to our PayPal and use the QR code right there, and you can donate directly to the channel. We see all donations and we appreciate all of them. If you don't want to use the QR code or don't know how, you can use our PayPal email address, which will be in the description below and the pinned comment, as well as our Cash App donation username. And a fun way to help the channel is through our Cameo right down there. On Cameo, you can ask for a birthday video, anniversary video. You can ask us to sing a song or something, or ask us questions, and you can get a video from me, Alex, Sean, Master Evil, Mother Evil, the Rodeo Clown, any character from any show on the channel, or any character that I've voiced in the audiobooks. It's a fun way to help the channel. It's only $10 a video, and we'll have a lot of fun doing that. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed tonight's content. Be excellent to each other. Please consider helping the channel. And always remember, the sun never sets on those who ride into it. Thank you.
Hey, this is Thom Matthews, and you're watching the Slash Track Network. Stay tuned.
Good evening, Slashaholics, and welcome to episode number 6 of Getting Sidetracked with Josh and Alex. And today we have the esteemed pleasure of being joined by one of my childhood heroes, one of my childhood icons. I probably rented this man's movies more than anyone in North Bend, Coos Bay, Oregon combined. The star of 1986, Jason Lives, Mr. Tommy Jarvis. He's also in Return of the Living Dead as Freddy. He came back as Return of the Living Dead Part 2 as Joey. He's in the upcoming fan film Never Hike Alone 2. He's in the new horror film that should be released, according to IMDb, Go Away, with a bunch of horror heavy hitters. We are joined tonight by Mr. Thom Matthews.
Hello, everybody.
Man, Tom, so good that you are here.
That's what an intro.
Yeah, man. I practiced it a time or two the last day.
Let me ask you a question. How old were you when you first saw Return of the Living Dead?
Okay, so 88, I was 5.
5 years. That's bad parenting.
Evil Dead 2, Return of the Living Dead 2. I actually saw Return of the Living Dead 2 before I saw the classic Return of the Living Dead. And Mr. Joe Bob Briggs was when he had Linnea on to like Fright Fest on TNT.
Yep.
I got to see the actual the first film that you did, and I was just blown away because people ask me, what's your favorite horror movie? And my answer is always Return of the Living Dead. But it's not just my favorite horror movie. It's probably a top 10 film of mine all time, just all genres.
It's really it's holding up, man. It's standing the test of time. The soundtrack's so good. The movie just works for you know, it's lightning in a bottle. I tell people it's just really good movie.
I hear that they're actually in talks of remaking the original Return of the Living Dead. Have you heard anything about that?
I heard something about it, but
I don't like that idea.
Yeah,
not good. So great.
You know, one of the things that we did, we rehearsed for 2 weeks before we started principal photography. So that kind of gelled everybody, I guess. And then James Karen and I, we found out on part 2 that we were born on the same day. So maybe that's why we gelled so well together.
Simpatico.
Exactly.
I was gonna ask you, Tom. So how do you think that Joey got the job, that one day gig with James Karen in the sequel. Did Joey just answer a Craigslist ad or a newspaper ad for a grave robber, or how did he stumble upon that?
I think yeah, that sounds good. I have no idea. Didn't really give it much thought.
I can't believe your girlfriend didn't pack you a lunch. I mean, she knew she could go dancing, but
maybe she was the one behind it.
yeah, she set the whole thing up. She needed money for drinks that night.
You know, I gotta make an admission. I saw Return of the Living Dead a little bit sooner. Me and Alex are only a year apart, or a little bit later than he did. My first, I think one of my first times that I saw you in a film was my brother was really into martial arts films, and I saw your performance in Kickboxer, and Kickboxer 4, if I remember right. And then my sister got me on Return of the Living Dead 1 and 2, and I was hooked on those before Jason Lives came into the equation. But I saw you in a movie with Cody from Step by Step. That was my first introduction to the great Tom.
Yeah, Albert Pune, the director.
You've done like 12 or 13 Pune movies, haven't you?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, you have a huge history with him. Are you guys buddies in real life? Is that the situation?
We were, well, not really. No, he's he passed away recently.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but he was very creative, very soft-spoken. I don't know where he came up with these fantastic stories, because he wrote most of his stuff. And just out there and wild, and he's very soft-spoken. He's a Hawaiian. He's born in Hawaii, from Hawaii.
Yeah, I was going to say,
hair, very sweet guy, very unassuming.
Your character in Kickboxer 4, so he was Hawaiian. So was it his choice to put you in the Hawaiian shirt during the big fight scene when the girl is going to take on basically the whole island of karate masters? Did Pune put you in that Hawaiian shirt?
Well, the setting was kind of like that, yeah.
Tropical.
It was very tropical.
You seriously always had the best outfits in every movie you've ever been. Where is the FU jacket from Return of the Living Dead?
I wish I had it. Even more so, I wish, because there was two versions of that jacket.
Okay.
The FU one that everyone knows, and the director thought possibly it might go to TV, so he made a jacket that said TV version on the back of it.
What?
That's the one I wish I had.
That's what they did with Ghostbusters. Josh, you're the master of this. Ghostbusters 1 or 2, didn't they film 2 different versions where they could say Ghostbusters and not? Yeah.
In the first one, because they had Filmation was going to battle with them over the name Ghostbusters. But yeah, so that's I really like that. They were prepared for the TV version. That's great.
Two jackets. Were they both screen used, Tom?
They were.
Oh my God, Tom! I was going to say
we threw on the TV version one at the at the last take, just in case.
I wish I had a varsity jacket like that in high school, man. Because the ones we had were the cheapo, go down to the mall, beg your mom to get you the Letterman's jacket that you got for like the bowling team or something. I needed the fuck you jacket.
I love the jacket in Jason Lives as well. Just the whole outfit. It's like a superhero suit at this point.
That was pretty much my, if you look, someone pointed out to me that I have suspenders in Return of the Living Dead and in Jason Lives, which we shot them a year apart, so that kind of made sense. But I kind of I was wearing that stuff, so I brought it to the wardrobe, and we ended up going with that Levi jacket with the fur on it. Was fake lamb wool.
I've always wondered, was Tommy Jarvis the villain of Jason Lives?
Was he the villain? No.
You brought Frankenstein back.
Correct. But only because of my demons.
Yeah. Were you pretty familiar with the backstory? Did you watch 4 and 5?
I went after I got the part. I went and looked at 1 through 5.
Okay, yeah.
Specifically to see if Corey or John Shepard had any mannerisms I could bring over to my portrayal of Tommy Jarvis. Didn't really find anything.
Well, you
stood out.
I've always felt like your performance was the best Tommy Jarvis. Obviously, it's the most iconic. I really enjoyed that. In the movie, I was going to ask you, when you watched part 5, you saw that Tommy pretty much had a premonition, like a dream at the beginning of part 5 of what you actually ended up doing. And like as a fan, as not the actor that played him, do you kind of see that as a self-fulfilling prophecy on the part of Tommy Jarvis?
Yeah, I saw part five and was terrified, to tell you the truth. It didn't have, I mean, it didn't have any lighting. It had, I don't know, I just wasn't my cup of tea, and it scared me. And I called it Tom McLaughlin, our director, and he kind of assured me he was doing other things and had lighting. And well, I mean, he created characters and relationships, and I think that's why people respond to it as being one of their favorites, because you had someone to hope for.
Yes, definitely. It's got the most it's the most lighthearted and fun of all of them, but it's also got,
and the director's really he's really a old school horror fan too, so I mean there's a lot of Easter eggs in there.
Love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the lightning bolt is from Frankenstein. It just goes on and on from there. Karloff Supermarket, when I'm on in the back.
Your chemistry with Jennifer on the set of that film, like, did you guys have chemistry offset? Is that why you guys, because on screen it like just jumps off the film. It's crazy. Yeah. She's, in my opinion, Tom, she's the foxiest, probably final girl in the Friday the 13th series. And she's probably my favorite too, because she kind of takes no shit. And she's kind of like, she's kind of like, almost like
takes charge, doesn't she?
Yeah, absolutely. And
you like that, don't you?
Oh, I love, definitely. And she saw she saw Tommy come into the jail. Her dad was pissed off. So that
immediately, he's kind of cute, Dad. Don't hurt him too much. He's kind of cute.
Tom, I was gonna ask you a question, man. So your hair in the 80s, man, in specifically Return of the Living Dead 2 and Jason, your hair is like the most perfectly coiffed, like beautiful mane I've ever seen on a man, dude. How many sponsorships and hair care products approached you after
0.
seeing? Oh, get out of here! Come on.
Swear to God.
You started out though in commercials, dude. You did Tostitos.
I did a bunch of commercials. Yeah,
you did like Tigra.
For about 3 years. I got every 10th one I went out on.
Oh hell yeah, dude!
Yeah,
Guaranteed.
Sprite commercial, La Tigre commercial. I did a commercial with Nicolette Sheridan for a beverage in Norway or something.
Such a big.
First time I met her. We went on to hang out a lot, but had mutual friends and stuff like that.
Okay.
What other, a Pizza Hut commercial? Bunch of them.
Now, Tom, when you do those commercials, did you ever get some product? Did they ever like send you some swag over?
My first wife on Tostitos commercial.
Really?
Oh, you got a wife? You got a wife out of it?
I got a wife out of the Tostitos commercial. Yeah.
That's phenomenal, man. They're like, they're like, in case you're having a party tonight, Tom, here's about 6 or 7 bags. Here's some dip.
Kevin Sorbo worked on that Tostitos commercial.
Really?
Hercules.
What was your earliest desire to be an actor?
I was kind of out of high school and kind of floundering and went through all the courses in high school. What do you want to be when you grow up, and blah, blah, blah. But nothing really stuck out. I knew I didn't want to be do an office job because I need to be outside and stuff. So a girlfriend I was dating at the time just turned to me and she goes, "Why don't you become an actor?" I was like, so I started studying, and 3 years later I started booking stuff.
Did you ever dream?
I actually went to work over at Lorimar Productions in the office building to get my SAG card, praying that I would get cast on something. And then a year and a half later, casting director in the office, Doris Saba, cast me on Falcon Crest. So I did a walk-on, and I was rubbing oil on someone's back, had one line, and that enabled me to get my SAG card.
You did a bunch of soap operas, didn't you? You were in Dallas, weren't you on a Dallas?
No, I was in Dynasty. I did
Dynasty.
two episodes of Dynasty. What else?
Paper Dolls.
Paper Dolls.
Paper Dolls.
Again, Nicola Sheridan. She was on that.
You were on an episode of so you like did a guest star spot on Mr. President, like when Fox kind of first came out.
Correct. George C. Scott.
Yeah. I was George C. Scott Patton,
Yeah.
Academy Award winner.
I had a scene with him.
That's incredible.
My scene. I had a scene. The premise was I was a Secret Service, and I was assigned to his daughter, and she and I were getting romantic.
He should have known
better. So I had a scene with him, and we did his coverage first. The camera was on him first, and it's 5 o'clock, and he left, so I had to do my take. The camera's on me with somebody else.
Oh my god!
They didn't tell me. He felt a little bad, but not that bad.
Yeah,
it would have been fine if I would have known, but no one just, it just feels like, what the fuck?
He's like, I got to get out of here.
5 o'clock.
Yeah, here's my Oscar.
But it was a true honor to be in a scene with him for sure. And then Telly Savalas in Dirty Dozen Part 3 or 4 or something. We shot that over in Europe with the Van Patten brothers and Randall Tex Cobb and a bunch of people.
Randall Tex Cobb probably was. Now I don't know. Hey Josh, Randall Tex Cobb was in Ace Ventura. He's the one who is like chasing Jim Carrey. Randall Tex Cobb. And this is the sports guy coming out.
He was also in Raising Arizona. The guy on the motorcycle.
Toughest son of a bitch ever. He fought Ken Norton, and Ken Norton destroyed him for 14 rounds and didn't lose the fight. Like, did you ever have some trouble with Randall on set, Tom, or?
No,
he wasn't jealous that you were stealing babes on set or anything with that hair you had going, or
that hair, the coif and the suspenders didn't.
Tom showed up in that jacket and those suspenders and that hair going with the Tostitos, and babes were just flocking.
Well, I got kind of a two-parter. I got to put my interviewer hat on for a second. I was just curious. The first part is what your favorite role is that you've ever done and why, and if you
favorite role I never got, and that was in Platoon.
Okay. Which part?
I met Charlie Sheen's part. I met Oliver Stone. I just had finished Return of the Living Dead, and I had a meeting with Oliver Stone over at Lionsgate, and he was editing El Salvador. And if you haven't seen that movie, you should. So we got to talking, and he walked me out to. He wanted to see what kind of car I was driving, so I guess it didn't impress him enough. So he cast Charlie. I don't know what happened, but that one got away. That one kind of hurt a little bit because I really wanted that part at the time.
I think you're a little bit psychic because the second part of my question, and I'm not kidding here, was if you could have cast yourself in any role in any movie, TV show, what would it be? But yeah. As far as what you were cast in, what would you say your favorite role has been?
My favorite role, probably my favorite. Well, I mean, Return of the Living Dead will always be near and dear to my heart. My first big part in a movie, and the arc of the character, innocent kid, brain sucking zombie, is a lot of fun to play for an actor. So it's a great arc. But a fun part that I liked doing was. Demolis in an Albert Pugh movie called Down Twisted. That was a lot of fun, only because it was scripted as a 240-pound, dark, tall God. So I was going to the gym while I was working out. I got cast. I knew 3 months before I was going in, so I was working out all the time, eating a ton of food, and then I dyed my hair black, as it said in the script, but it didn't look good on my coloring. Because I have all up skin and stuff. So I bleached it all white. I didn't tell him.
Oh, no.
I go down to the set in Mexico, and I got I found a blue suede jacket. I put a silver. I mean, Demolis, what kind of images does that conjure up for you? So I got a silver cap in my tooth, So I just went down there as Demolis, and I'm standing there, and I said, Albert. I said, Demolis. He goes, I love it. So. That was the fun thing about Albert. He was, he liked you to bring stuff to the game, and it was very creative and very fun. Every from the very beginning. The first movie I did with him was Dangerously Close. And so he's got a bunch, it was got male heavy guys in high school. We were too old to be in high school, but we were in high school. We're in our early 20s. Don Michael Paul, John Stockwell, blah, blah, blah. So he had everybody there, and he kept everybody there reading scenes back and forth. Now, this is the first time he hired me. And we were there for like 4 hours just reading a scene with each other and back and forth, reading other scenes. And when I got there, I said, Albert, why did you have us read all these scenes together, although we weren't in them, and kept us there for that long? He goes, I wanted to see, make sure I wasn't getting any prima donnas on the set, because that makes the budget go skyrocket. So
Okay.
that was his test to see if we can hang and, still be positive.
He was like, all right, Tom, you made it through that. Now let's go check out your car and outside.
Well, that's Albert Pune. Yeah, no,
I know. He
I didn't even have a car then. Maybe I did.
Tom, so after Jason Lives and the success of that film, were you approached by anyone? Like, did John Carl Buechler or anybody approach you to do?
No, Paramount did call my agents though, and they wanted 12 headshots. So, but it never went anywhere from there. Which I was surprised.
Is the resurgence of the character lately, is it how has that been for you, like with the video game and the fan film?
Yeah, the video game's been great. It's creating I don't think anyone should see it until they're like 12 or 13 years old. So the video game's creating all this Friday fan lower demographic. So when they grow up, they'll be able to see the franchise and stuff. So that's great. And it's a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to be in it.
And the fan films, are you enjoying revisiting the character?
Yeah, very much so. I got involved in a weird way. It's a long story, but it kind of revitalized my career, so to speak, because the executive producer was a friend of a friend and a big Friday the 13th fan. And then he went on to make his own movie. So I did a movie for him as well. And then my name just got out there, and I did a Western, a couple of years ago, which was a lot of fun in Detroit, and a bunch of other stuff, Go Away, Final Summer, The Never Hike Alones.
Do you get a good say? I'm sorry, Alex, this is my last part of the question.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you get some say on the character of Tommy Jarvis? Like, do you get to talk about that before, or they just say this is what's happening with his character in these fan films?
No, I pretty much know him, and I have a pretty clear vision of who he is, and he's still tortured, will always be tortured, even if Jason gets blown up, dynamite down his throat or something. He'll always be tortured and have dreams about it. Very much alone. I always thought he and Megan actually eventually got married, had a couple kids, but he just couldn't get over that, so they ended up getting divorced, and he became very much a loner, hanging out at Camp Crystal Lake because he knows Jason's going to rear his ugly head again at some point.
He feels a responsibility.
So the Never Hike Alone ambulance guy kind of made sense to me because he has a pulse on the community and stuff like that, finding out who's dying and
Hey, Meganhead! Remember me, asshole? Hang on, kid!
Alex?
I was just gonna say, so
the ending of Never Hike Alone 2 would have been much different if I didn't say something about
Okay.
So was CJ ever approached to play Jason?
And I thought it would be a good idea, but Vincent DeSante, the director, he grew up. Jason Lives was his favorite Friday film, and he grew up at a lake forest. So when he was younger, he always was scared Jason was going to come out of the woods. So this has been a big dream of his to do the fan film. they had already shot half of it by the time I got involved. And when I was asked, I was like, I'm not no way I'm doing a fan film. I mean, that's like, come on. It's like, I think of a fan film when you and I going out with our phones and, you know, that the arm come, because I've seen them, but they sent me the first half of what they had shot, and Andrew's great in it. I mean, the kid who's the hiker was very topical. He's a blogger. He's filming himself. He's, you know, it all made sense. Comes across a path that's not on the map. Gets curious, follows it to these cabins, and all hell breaks loose. So the production value is why I got involved in it, because it was amazing. The story was great, and Andrew was great in it.
Yeah, you guys also had some of the people who did the special effects from the Blumhouse Halloween movies working on these films too. From my understanding, yeah,
that's all Vincent DeSante.
Those kills were phenomenal.
What do you see Never Hike Alone 2? It's going to blow your mind.
We can't.
I just watched Never Hike Alone, like the kind of sneak peek. I just rewatched Never Hike Alone, and then
you saw the trailer for Never Hike Alone 2?
I think it was 6 minutes long.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I did watch.
Fishing?
You're fishing. And there's a kid.
Your son. Fishing?
Yeah, your son.
My son. It was Tommy Jarvis.
It looks like Corey Feldman when he's in
from part 4. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm talking to myself.
Okay, and that's why you wake up and you're like,
yes,
gotcha.
What did I tell you about coming out here alone?
I just wanted to go fishing.
Okay, but it's not safe for you to be out here by yourself.
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay. Just, you know, let me know next time. Okay?
Okay. I promise.
Okay, good.
Is it because of Jason?
Where did you hear that name?
The kids at school. They said he drowned in the lake, and that he's still down there, waiting.
Waiting for what?
To pull me down with him.
It was a dream, yeah.
That's so funny. I was like, that kid looks exactly like Corey Feldman.
That blew my mind. That was
hopefully Corey, because we want Corey to do the show someday. Hopefully he doesn't catch wind of this interview and want some money from the production for using his likeness. What do you think, Tom?
I don't think so. He's okay, but you never know.
You never know. Tom, I was going to say, so Adam Marcus, I'm so surprised that he did not, because he originally wrote Jason Goes to Hell with Tommy in mind. And then New Line didn't own the character of Tommy Jarvis. That's why it's not called Friday the 13th. So they had to switch it out and take the guy who starred in the Friday the 13th series, and they basically took Tommy Jarvis and replaced him. I am so surprised that since it was written with Tommy as the lead star of that film, that it wasn't you and Megan and they never approached you about that.
I'm surprised we didn't, follow up on part 7. There's no consistency in the franchise except for Jason and the three or four Tommy Jarvises. Because I'm in the beginning of part 7 a little bit, but they use Eclipse part 6.
So Tom, you own a construction company? Is that okay? So it's called Hammer and Trowel.
Yes.
You're also reality TV kind of star. You worked on the Osbournes' house.
Yes, I did.
Did you know that, Josh?
I did not. That's new. That's
I did their
new.
house. Yeah, when they were on MTV the first season.
That's incredible. Are you in some of the shots, Tom? Where you're like talking to them?
No, my work is. I mean,
Okay.
you don't want to know how they shot the show?
Sure.
They put cameras all over the house.
Okay.
And how they made and I was still there because they extended a contract. So I was there for 3 months while they were filming, my crew and I. And so how they made an episode, 22-minute episode, 30-minute episode with commercials. They would take from the 6 months of filming, they would take dialogue from whatever they were talking about. Say it was the guy next door, the dog. They would take dialogue from wherever to make a cohesive show.
Okay. So they
So
just kind of
the first sentence could have been here, the second sentence could have been here, the third one could have been here, and until they made a cohesive show. They must have had a ton of editors, and they must have had all the sentences that they said laid out somewhere to make a show together.
yeah.
So if you go back and look at the first season, because we were still there working, they have a close-up of Sharon. They cut back to Ozzy, back to Sharon, but the wall will be a different color because we were there working.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a really great job. Sharon was very, very she's very creative, and we cast their daughter Kelly's fists in bronze and made them the front door hinges.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It just
Were
went on
they-
and on like that.
Tom, were they familiar with your past, with your work?
No, they had hired a project manager who he was familiar with my company because they had another contractor who wasn't performing, overcharging, whatever. So they hired a project manager, and that's all he does. He oversees, make sure the contractors have the insurance and are capable of doing it. So the original contract was for 4 months. And then because they were getting a bad taste in their mouth about the house, so they wanted to sell it. So we're
Okay.
just gonna flip it. So we were gonna put it all back together. There's a 2-story house over by a nice neighborhood in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
So 3.5 months into it, Sharon decides no, she wants to move into the house. So we tore everything out again. The plumbing fixtures were in. We were getting ready to paint. You know, the windows came out. Everything changed. So I was there another 8 months, and then MTV started 5 months after that. Within that 8-month period. But
What
no,
an
I had on a normal job. So you get the plans and stuff. On a normal job, you'll get like maybe things will change a little bit. 5 change orders to change something, or 10, a lot. We had 259 change orders.
Oh my God.
And the guy, they had a project manager, so the paperwork was just like, because you had to keep track of everything, have backup and all that stuff. So that was that. The house came out really nice. Ozzy had his own man cave, which is fucking bitchin'. Walnut bookcases with a big screen. He had a powder room at the house, and he wanted a urinal instead of a toilet.
Okay.
Okay.
Good for him, man.
It was
Oh,
small,
argument
yeah.
on
So we put in a urinal. So
Yeah.
I got the idea. I've got a urinal here at my house in my bathroom too because of Ozzy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Urinals and bidets, man. I know
Yeah,
it's like
and then Sharon brought over. Oh, here's a cool thing. She brought over from England these crystal chandeliers, but they're shaped like boats, ships.
Okay.
So she goes, Tom, because she's got an English accent. Tom, where should we put these? I said, oh man, Sharon. So let me think about it. Give me a day. So upstairs on the second floor, they had this really long hallway going down the bedrooms on either side. The gym, the bedrooms, whatever. I said, Sharon, come here. I said, look at this. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria just coming down the hallway.
Christopher Columbus, baby.
That's great.
So she loved it. She also brought over some leaded glass from England. And it was Moses coming down the mountain with the tablets.
Wow.
And they were 2 panels, and they were arch-shaped at the top. Because what should we do with these? I said, I'll make doors out of them. I'll put glass on both sides because they have to be tempered because you're too low to the ground. And, we have codes here in California. And made a walnut frame, and we made doors out of them going into the game room. So that was, the whole job was like that. It was just phenomenal.
Just listening to these stories from the Osbournes, and I was like an audience member all of a sudden.
Yeah, I that was probably 30 years ago already. We did that one, my partner and I probably, right now I'm probably employing, I got 2 huge jobs going on. So maybe 40 people.
Wow.
That's incredible. So with your name recognition, does that help the company at all? Do they say,
No.
hey, we want Tom to come and
No, I don't talk about my clients, and it's always like word of mouth, and a lot of famous people, a lot of them.
okay.
I don't talk about it. Some of them I have, confidentiality stuff that the guys see. Sometimes some of the jobs, some of the guys have to sign them too to go into the houses and stuff. But
I got an idea of someone you probably did their house for you, and you don't have to say yes or no because you've done some stuff with him, Tom. I'm thinking maybe you did George Clooney, one of his houses, because you have a connection with George.
I do. He hired me we've done a couple of films together.
Mm-hmm. Peacemaker.
Peacemaker, yeah.
You've been on,
Phil,
you've been on ER with George.
yes, that was the first. Actually, we did a thing called Waiting for Woody.
Okay.
It's a short film that his now producing partner, Grant Heslov, directed, that George was in it, and I had a very small part in it as a bicycle messenger.
Hey,
So we
man.
got that. George also did, he made a short back in the day. What the hell was the name of it? Kelly Preston was in it, God bless her. Clue was in it. Clue Gulager was in it.
Oh wow.
I was the barkeeper. I was the barkeeper who gave his son alcohol, and he came in and to confront me and thank me for losing his son because his son died from alcohol in a car crash. So that was the first time I had met Clue, actually.
Clue was old time Western actor back in the
He
day.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was kinda like-
Leonardo, the Western was based on him. Clue's actually in what was the Leonardo DiCaprio's movie that he did?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh
Yes.
yes, that one. Okay, gotcha.
So Clue's in that movie,
You know what? I did know that Clue was in that movie because I love that movie.
but I was upset because Quentin only got him from the side. He didn't give him a frontal. He didn't give him a close up.
Shit, gotta give him the star.
Clue was basically that guy. I mean, he was that, he's done a lot of Westerns. Great actor.
Clue. So do you think like in another universe, do you think maybe Clue from the like coming and confronting you about his son when the drunk driving accident, do you think, well, I'll give this kid another chance and we'll hire him at my medical supply warehouse down the road to see if we can turn him around?
I don't think he even knew I was even hired, to tell you the truth. Frank hired me.
I was gonna say that just going
He was
back.
funny, Clue was funny in that he my name is Freddie. So if you go back and look at it, he calls me Fred. Okay, Fred. Which I thought was genius.
That's how a boss. That is, he wouldn't call you Freddie. He's trying to address you as an adult because you're working for him.
Yes.
Hey, can I ask you a question? So, Tom, what the hell was the trioxin doing at the medical supply warehouse? Was that shipped there by accident?
Typical Army fuck up.
There it is. I think I've got a question.
You want to see him? See him. The corpses. They're in the basement.
Oh, look at it. It's right over there.
Dude,
That scene, the office scene, kind of encapsulates the whole movie for me. I thought, when we were filming it, I thought, man, that guy's chewing up the scenery. I thought he was way over the top, but it's spot on what he did, James Cameron.
Great together, like seriously. And I've got to know. This is actually a viewer question that somebody asked me to ask, a subscriber question. How were you approached to return to the franchise and Return of the Living Dead Part 2?
Oh, well, they had the script for part two. So they back in the day used to take it to foreign distributors to get money to make the movie.
Okay.
And you give them the right to distribute the film all over the country. So you go to each country and you ask them when they went to Japan, it was a huge hit in Japan. So they said, absolutely, we want to distribute the sequel after you guys make it. Here's a bunch of money, but could you have James Cameron and Thom Matthews come back in some way, because they're like incredibly popular over here. So that's why we came back.
Oh my
And I was happy. And I was happy. It didn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but I was happy to have the job, number one, and more important to work again with James Cameron.
For sure. I think that Return of the Living Dead 2 gets a lot of I like the movie.
What? If you're a kid from 8 to 12 and that's the first time you're seeing it, that is your world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great ride. Does it hold up to part one? Absolutely not. Part one is a dark comedy.
Yeah.
We're not making fun of ourselves. We're like in it. You laugh at what the hell's going on because it's so outlandish.
But you care too about the characters. You guys did make us care about the characters, for sure. And
yeah, I think so. And then part two, they went for the jokes, the Michael Jackson at the end, and kind of wink, wink, nod, nod kind of stuff.
Bring more brains.
Even Return of the Living Dead 2, though, I think gets a lot of crap because the original 1985 classic was so good.
Yeah.
The bar was raised so high. It's like,
yes, I agree.
It's like, okay, Marcus and Jeffrey Jordan, you're playing D1 basketball. Now go live up to your dad's legacy.
I do a lot of horror conventions, and people like part two because it's very nostalgic for them because that's the first one they saw.
Yes, same here.
We rented it at least 100 times, Tom. I was so Return of the Living Dead 2, and I don't know if a lot of people know this, that had one of them, like when people ask me, like people on the channel or Josh or anybody, they say, what's the scariest scene you've ever seen in a horror movie? And it's from Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
Wow. Which scene?
It's the scene where you're asking your girlfriend if you can basically eat her brains. And she's like,
she says, okay.
Yeah, she's like, okay. And I
okay, Joey.
Honey, it's only me.
Okay.
I put myself in her shoes. And it's just terrifying to me. It's really unsettling.
Suzanne Snyder, I actually got her that job.
I know you did. I was just going to say that. You guys actually,
we knew each other, and I was already cast, of course, but she told me she was going to go in and read as my girlfriend. I said, what are the scenes? And she told me the scenes. I said, well, I'll read them with you. Let's practice. We'll rehearse. So we rehearsed, and then of course she got a call back to read with me with some other girls, and
nailed it.
I've got
the casting director. That was so good. Did you guys rehearse that? Well, no, it was just
absolutely.
Absolutely. Alex,
and then she was also in Killer Clowns, which I also auditioned for the Grant Kramer part back in the day.
That movie's a cult classic too, man. Jesus,
it's got a video game coming out as well. David Bergantino.
Yeah, that should be good.
I was gonna say just on the Return of the Living Dead 2 before we finish with that. I've got an irrational fear of Tar Man thanks to those movies. Maybe I did watch it a little too young. Alex likes to pick on me and send me little Tar Man memes. But no, that's the scariest part for me. Tar Man, for some reason, is just
rage. My favorite scene in Return of the Living Dead was when the girl they chop in half coming through the window and they put her down on the gurney.
Mm-hmm.
Her half spine is like going back and forth and it's oozing out blood. But I was fascinated by having a conversation with that person, that corpse, that disgusting looking woman. Who must have
Miguel
300
Nunez
years old.
Jr. He's like, they say, what do you say? We kill something. It's like, you can't kill it, spider. It's already dead. And he's like,
Yeah.
what do you fucking mean? Like,
Why do you eat people? Not people, brains.
Jesus.
It stops the pain of dying.
You can hear me.
Yes.
Why do you eat people?
Not people. Brains.
Brains only.
Yes.
Eating brains. Why? How does that make you feel?
It makes the pain go away.
So that was fascinating to me. And that's, from the mind of Dan O'Bannon, who wrote and directed it.
That was creepy because they're not,
Yeah.
they don't want to actually hurt you. They just want to
Yeah.
get to whatever causes them to stop being
Yeah.
rotten and dying.
And then nowadays, zombies eat brains because of that movie. It became part of pulp culture now, which made it bigger than itself.
There's songs and everything about it.
Songs and skits on TV, and they're all going for the brains.
The Simpsons, where they're
The Simpsons,
going after
Scooby
Homer.
Doo.
There's no
Scooby Doo has a cartoon. Oh, they have a cartoon of me actually.
Are you for real?
Yeah,
Oh, that's fantastic.
yeah.
You have to look that up and pull it up for a clip. That's great.
Tom, so Never Hike Alone 2 is coming out on Friday the 13th in October.
In October, yeah, a great
Yeah.
release date. I'm going to be in at Halloween Palooza at a horror convention, and I'm bringing it there to premiere it there as well. We when we did Never Hike Alone, we premiered at Telluride, and if you ever get a chance to go to Telluride for the horror film festival, jump on it because it's a beautiful setting, and they have banners up over everyone. You see the new filmmakers, you see a bunch of actors there, but Vincent is taking it there because that's where we kicked off Never Hike Alone 5 years ago. And now it's got 4 million views on YouTube, probably more now.
We got to speak with Vincent around the time that the first one was coming out. And I can tell he's got a lot of love for the genre and also the practical effects
Yes.
time period. And I was
Yeah.
going to ask you if it's refreshing to see, younger filmmakers going the practical route, because I'm sure you saw a lot of amazing practical effects on the set. Return of the Living Dead, Jason Lives, and things like that.
I did, and it is fun to see it. And Vincent, he's a huge fan of the franchise, and he knows everything about it inside and out, and he's like an encyclopedia. And his enthusiasm alone will want to get you involved. And a lot of the crew, they were huge fans, and they wanted to give their time towards the project and stuff. So kudos to them. It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Looking forward
It'll
to
blow
it.
some people's mind. Rick the Dick, who I locked in the jail.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
also Never Hike Alone, never hike in the snow. He's back. First time he's going to see Jason
Ooh.
in his 45 years of law enforcement. The first time, because he's always thought, Tommy Jarvis was killing everybody, but he couldn't prove it, so he was frustrated. And he's got a big plan to, or at least he thinks he does, a big plan to take Jason out.
I'm looking forward to that. Like when I saw Never Hike in the Snow, I was like, oh, thank goodness. I just thought he's been locked in that cell for 40 years.
Yeah. No, I got him involved in that too.
Oh, sweet.
I told Vincent, he goes, yeah, let's bring him in. So
Rick Cologne's big plan to take out Jason is he just
Vinny's a friend of mine. He lives not too far from here. And Sheriff Garris, I see him walking around my freaking neighborhood once a week. He walks my neighborhood. He walks right in front of my house.
Do you
He
get?
lives in that area, or else that's kind of strange. No, it's good.
He lives like 3 blocks away.
It's good to hear that he's still walking after his back was broken in half.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's the most upsetting part in Jason.
That's my favorite kill in the whole franchise.
They really
I saw it in dailies with no music, no special effects, and it was pure
And I got to tell you,
without anything.
yeah, it not only did it look brutal, but the fact that in that moment, as a father myself, I get it. His daughter is about to be taken out, you know, and he knows in that
Yes.
moment he's done, but he's got
Yeah.
to save her. So not only is it like a brutal death, but it's one like the kill itself, but just what
The
he's
co-
doing there is powerful. It's
Yeah,
powerful.
his motivation to do it.
Yes, very powerful scene. Tom
Yeah.
McLaughlin, Vincent actually reminds me of a younger Tom McLaughlin because I've spoken with Tom too, and they just the love for the horror franchise
Yeah.
went all the way back to Universal Monsters. So if there's anybody to pick up these characters, I think Vincent, you know, has done a great job, and I really trust him with them. And everything I've seen is just amazing. And it was so awesome to get to see you back in that role because if there is any hero character
Well,
survive.
I was waiting for Tom McLaughlin to write a script, and he did, but it's girl heavy and it's on the other side of the camp. So,
Uh,
so you know, Good.
I asked him about the kids in because that was the high stakes in Jason Lives. There were actual kids at the camp for the first time.
yeah, the two guys at the lake. I mean, under the in the cot. What were you gonna? Those guys were brothers, and what were you gonna be when you grow up? What were
Yes.
you gonna be when you grew up? Those two guys.
And Jason,
I just met him for the first time at a screen we had for Jason Lives over here in Los Feliz in California.
oh wow, they were there.
Because I didn't see a lot of the people. So the yuppie couple in the park, I never met the guy. I knew Cindy because she's married to Rick the Dick, Vinny Gassufero. They got married. They were dating, then now they've been married and have a lot of kids. So I knew her. I never met him, and I never met the twins. And now they're all grown. I mean, the two brothers. Now they're all grown up. So that was a lot of fun.
That is
The yuppie couple. When I listened to Tom talk about that scene,
That was an added
it
scene.
was an added scene
don't be home without it.
because they needed more kills or something.
Correct.
They were like Paramount's like, hey, we need a few more kills here.
Yeah.
And I never.
Tom intentionally had 13 kills.
Okay, yeah, I remember him mentioning that. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
intentionally, but they wanted 5 more.
And Tom had an interesting take on why he put the kids in there, not just for high stakes, but also he said if you watch it, it's almost like Jason is making sure that they're being taken care of properly. Like he doesn't go try to kill them. He kind of uses them for a trap at the end of the movie. But he has a chance. He could have slaughtered every kid in that cabin.
He came to me. Tom said, "Hi, Jason's in the camp. He's got get Megan by the head. How do I get him?" I said, I'll just call him. I'll just call him from the boat. Hey, Megan head, come on, it's me you are, remember? Come on, you pussy. And then he gets his attention, and then he makes a beeline for me. So that was improvised.
Okay, that
yeah.
made you the hero, man. You say not only did you save the girl, but you saved
saved my
countless
girl.
Children. So
Yes.
That's
But
incredible.
CJ was great. CJ was never saw him, never. Talked to him. Wasn't hanging out. Interesting thing. A kid. We were in between shots, and I think there's even a campfire because it was at night shoot. We're sitting around, and this kid comes walking up on the park. It's a campsite, and he's like looking around. I said, "Can I help you?" He goes, "Is Jason around?" I said, "I think he's maybe in the trailer. Is there something I can help you with?" I think he's busy. Might be prepping for something. He goes, "Yeah, can you ask him if I leave my window open, would he come and kill me tonight?"
That-
I'll pass that on.
And y'all shot that scene, the final scene in the pool, correct? Like Tom's pool? or
We
something?
shot the no, we shot above water. He jumps on the boat. That was at the lake
Okay.
in Covington. And then we rented a big pool
Okay.
in the City of Industry for the underwater scene. And then Tom got his dad's pool when Megan took the propeller and jammed it in Jason's face. That was at Tom's father's pool because
His
they
father.
they made the water really dirty.
And you worked with John Travolta's nephew or cousin?
Yeah, Tom Fridley. I just saw him. There was like a reunion over at the gas station, the Cult Classic Convention in where were we? Baton Rouge. So yeah, we were all together. Darcy was there, CJ was there, Tom McLaughlin was supposed to be there, except for he had COVID. He's over it now.
Okay, good.
Tom Fridley was there, if I didn't say that. Yeah, so it's fun, it's do these conventions. I do about 10 to 12 a year, all over, been overseas many times, and it's just great to see everybody. It's either Return of the Living Dead or Friday the 13th.
Where are you going to be soon? And we can include
I'm going to be at on October, Friday the 13th. I'll be at Halloween Palooza, Ottawa in Iowa, wherever that is.
Oh,
And
Tom
then
one?
October 27th at the Atomic Monster Weekend, and that's in Mesa, Arizona. And then November 10th, Texas Zombie Convention in San Antonio, Texas. That's the whole weekends. All those are weekends.
Heck yeah. Josh, you got anything else for Tom, man? This has been my favorite interview we've done.
I've got tons more, but I'm just so glad that we got to speak with you. This has been an honor. Like, we were really looking forward to getting to speak with you. And
Yeah, great. Just everyone check in for Never Hike Alone 2. It's going to be on YouTube. Paid for by the fans, made for fans, for the fans. I'm not sure if they still have the Indiegogo campaign going on, but for $10, you can get your name in the credits, and it'll be solidified from here until eternity as a thank you. I think there's like 3 pages or 4 pages right now of people who did that perk. But there's posters and the film and blah, 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 all this other stuff, sign posters and stuff like that. But I'm looking for everyone to see us and getting back on screen with Vinny Guastafaro, Rick the Dick, as I call him. I'm thinking about getting a t-shirt made, Rick the Dick, and start sporting that. But yeah, it's going to be great. I can't wait to see it. They're editing it feverishly right now, Vincent DeSante and the team, to get it out by the due date. So it should be fun.
do you know the runtime, or is that kind of secret?
It's gonna be, I think it's gonna be about 80 or 90 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Well,
phenomenal.
he was originally gonna make 4 separate ones, but he combined them all, I guess, and then so it's 80, 90 minutes, I think.
That's a hot
Also,
take right there.
it overlaps in part 1. In part 1 where I take off in the ambulance,
Mhm.
go back a little bit. I have a fight scene with Jason, but you only hear it. The paramedics hear it, and then the kid runs out and he gets killed, and you don't see that. But so we start some of it. It overlaps, so you actually see my fight scene with Jason.
Okay.
Pulls me into the thing, so it overlaps. I take off, and then Jason starts walking towards wherever I'm going. He's following me to the hospital because I'm taking the kid to the hospital to get fixed.
I want a time machine right now because I like
Yeah.
feature
And if
length.
you haven't seen Never Hike in the Snow, check that out because there's an important character in there as well. A couple important characters that spill over into Never Hike Alone 2.
Can't wait. That's good.
Josh, you should put the links for those in
Definitely.
the description down below.
Yeah. They're going to be
Stay-
down there. The Indiegogo is going to be down there if it's still active, and this is going to be exciting. Feature length here. That's great.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Tom, thank you so much for your
My
time.
pleasure, guys. Yeah, Alex,
Yeah.
my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Good seeing you guys. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
everybody, be excellent to each other, and remember, the sun never sets on those who ride into it. Have a great night.
Don't be afraid.
Hey everybody, it's CJ Graham, Jason Voorhees. That's right, Friday the 13th, part 6. And you're listening to After the Slash with Sean and Joshua.
Greetings, Slashaholics, and welcome to another episode of After the Slash. I am Sean Campbell. I'm with the 80 Slasher librarian, Josh LaRue. Still doing good?
Doing all right. Little stumble there, but it's okay. You can stay on the payroll. And guys, it needs no introduction. We've got Jason Voorhees with us tonight, Mr. CJ Graham.
Hey,
how are
Josh,
you doing,
Sean, what's going on?
Yeah, just... I was like, I don't know what to say. It's kind of crazy seeing you in person. But yeah, do you have any fun stories from making that, or how do you like the whole experience?
Yeah, guys, for me, first and foremost, thanks for having me on, because you have to realize this is 3 decades ago plus. And, Sean, like we were just talking, you weren't even born back then. And Josh, you barely made the cutoff, buddy.
Yeah, barely made that cutoff.
Barely. But, it's nice because here we are 3 decades later talking about an icon that's become worldwide. So kind of to answer your question, Sean, it's kind of a interesting point. I'll give you something even different. A lot of people, if you go to India, India's got about 1.4 billion folks. And you show them a picture of Tom Cruise, they'll all say Tom Cruise. You show them a picture of C.J. Graham or Kane Hodder, Derek Mears, and they'll shrug their shoulders. However, you turn the picture around to the hockey mask, Jason, they'll go Jason, Friday the 13th. It's very interesting, this mask has become so iconic that I'm sure Paramount, none of those folks could have ever believed it happened. And for me, it was just pure, good, solid luck. And that happens sometimes with your career. Things just happened, and then you got to deliver. You got to deliver once you get the job.
Yeah, I noticed in the movie, I got to call you out on this. Your trainer did something wrong while filming because your body shape changed once.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that it changed once. Originally, I didn't get the job.
Oh, okay.
So there's one scene in there that's the paintball scene, to be exact.
Yep,
Most people see the paintballs hit the midsection. They go, oh, he's wearing padding. Actually, that's not my physique. That person was a little thicker than me, and most people just assume I'm wearing padding. But that gentleman and I were built a little differently, and that scene was one of the original scenes shot, obviously the very first scene. And when the dailies came back, the satisfaction from Paramount Studios wasn't there. And like I said, lo and behold, luck, I got a call, come and let's take off on a Monday and shoot a movie. That scene was shot with special effects. So they left it in the movie. So that one scene, that paintball, a little thicker than I am in the midsection. So there is a little bit of a continuity, but most people just assume I'm wearing padding.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if most of my viewers even realized that. That's why I brought it up. But hey, you did come in and say, I get a triple decapitation too, right? I mean, that's
So the scene where you see the arm being lifted up in the daytime, that's me.
Okay.
Like I said, the only day scenes that were shot were the quote-unquote paintball and the arm coming off with the smiley face. So, you have to understand they're on a budget, more importantly. And I think, Tom McLaughlin, Frank Mancuso from Paramount just assumed most people would have the assumption padding, because those are real paintballs. So I'm sure there was some padding there inclusive. So, it didn't, at the end of the day, I was satisfied with my performance. More importantly, I did everything. Every stunt is me. Every scene is me, with the exception of the paintball. The only other scene I didn't do, I always give shout out to my buddy Christopher Swift, special effects guy. I was on set shooting, and they wanted to do the maggot scene. And so Chris, who has green eyes like I, volunteered to do the magnet scene. So that eyeball with those real maggots is Christopher Swift. I always give that young man credit because they had a maggot wrangler with a Q-tip keeping those maggots out of his eye. True story. So good job, Chris.
Yeah, I've got this theory that like you played Jason, you've seen the films beforehand. I'm taking it. I don't want to just assume, but is that a safe bet?
I again, by luck, got called for a part. Had to go back, do a little research. The simplicity of the past really wasn't a bother to me because Tom McLaughlin really wanted to take and create a platform of the new Jason coming back. And in theory, he didn't want to be a zombie quite. He wanted to be more like a Frankenstein, which means that the brain is starting to connectivity and starting to think a little bit rather than just walking around.
Oh yeah, I
zombie.
never assumed that he was like brainless zombie. I'm saying like
Yeah.
as a kid, my mind was thinking, zombie Jason's there. But like,
Yep.
I totally, as I got older, I totally saw the connection with Frankenstein. I mean, it's
Yeah.
all there. You got the electricity and the fence post and everything. Definitely. What I was going to ask you is assuming you've seen the movies beforehand, in part 5, Tommy has this. I shared this with Tom McLaughlin too. Tommy has this dream at the beginning of part 5 about seeing these two people trying to dig up Jason and it inadvertently bringing him back. And I always said I know there's no continuity between the movies, really, like no real super connections. But I was like, as a fan, just having fun with it, I like to see that as Tommy having a premonition into his future, to whenever he brought back Jason the Night in Jason Lives. But yeah, that's the most iconic scene to me in the series is whenever you were playing and got brought back and the eye opens. Because that's really what, I hate to use a pun here, revived the series too. Because it was, part 5 made a lot of fans mad. And bringing Jason back in full force, like in the Frankenstein mode, Frankenstein. There are a few people that still prefer the original 4 whenever he's human or whatever, but I don't think he was ever fully human. But man, I don't know how else to say it, man. You rocked it as Jason. You're the combination of how you played the part and Tom's writing and directing. This is one of the best. It didn't take itself too seriously. It was a lot of fun. And I even told Sean this. Anybody that's like wanting to get into the franchise, you don't even have to watch 1 through 5. You could start with 6. That I wouldn't mind going back and telling more people start with 6. Go from there because
Well, I think you're right because part 6. And I'm very appreciative for all of them, but part 6 kind of stands on its own legs, so to speak, with the platform because theoretically Frankenstein came back to life with lightning. So there's a body coming back to extremely powerful life, and you can go from there and you can float it as they've done through it. But, at the end of the day, if you really want to know the historical value of Friday the 13th, you got to go back to part 1, fundamentally understand Ari, who played Jason in part 1, and then go through the process. And you know what? That's what it's about when you start having part 1, part 8, part, X. I mean,
I guess what I mean is it was kind of the new set of movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like 1 through 4 is like the original set, and then 5's kind of the, the bridge between the new set, the undead, the living Jason to the undead Jason. My point is part 6. I have a hard time expressing what I'm trying to say sometimes, but part 6, in my opinion, was just as classic, in my opinion, as part 1 because it was a new beginning for Jason.
Right. Tom McLaughlin did a great job, though, writing and directing. And, he communicated very well, especially to a noofer like me, of what he expected out of Jason's profile. And he was very clear. He did not want a robot. He did not want a zombie. He referenced, Universal horror movies as I do. I think that's my era, his era. So we had that connectivity. Physically, as you can tell, I'm still 6'3", 250. Same structure, and if you surf the internet today, you'll see pictures of me less than a week ago in full wardrobe standing out in the snow. And even Tom McLaughlin, when we sent it to him, he's using it as his profile because the originality of what I look like today physically is the same as then. And it's all just kind of posturing, so to speak. But Tom really gave me the direction, and, kudos to Tom. And then, of course, Thom Matthews, great guy who played Tommy in the movie, and the way he handled it as far as going forward. So part 6, obviously it's my favorite. But I will tell you, part 6 is kind of unique. It's got that, as you said, it's got that difference. It's a little bit of humor, but it's not too much. It can stand on its own, so to speak, going forward. Part 6 is the James Bond opening. That's cool.
Yeah,
Part 6, Jason comes back to life like Frankenstein. That's cool. Part 6, you got a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer, Alice Cooper, doing the music. That's super cool. And then last but not least, I'm the only Jason that got to wear a Batman utility belt. Go figure.
Right. That you got the belt of goodies, man.
So,
yeah.
But you guys don't forget part 6, there's no nudity.
I don't even notice because it's it's got everything else,
there's no nudity and there's a couple swear words. So it's more of a family version where anybody can see it as a starting, because there's not F this, F that, and this and that showing. It's really, truly about a homicidal killer coming back to life and killing people.
Mm-hmm.
One interesting thing there, talking about the progression of the character, is that LaRue, for his channel, narrates all of the novelizations that were done on these, and the novelizations seem to take the idea of what Jason was like going through school, how he drowned, how he kind of regenerated a little bit, and they say, especially with the maggots on the face and everything, that he was constantly trying to regenerate, but he was too damaged until the lightning hit him and supercharged him. But it's interesting in the book because it actually goes through more of his head of reliving those classroom memories, reliving the deaths over and over. So it's just not only is he supercharged with energy, but he's supercharged with like his anger. So it was really interesting to see that play out in your acting through the movie. Just this really super angry revived Jason. It was really nice to see for that. Yeah. That was one of my first ones because I didn't start with the first one and go to 10. I think the 6th one might have been my third Friday the 13th. My blockbuster was really patchy with series. With Halloween and everything, so I had to bounce between.
Halloween? You mean? Oh yeah, Mikey. Oh yeah, the guy that uses the Outback steak knife. Yeah.
No, fuck Mikey.
You know what? I know all the gentlemen that played Michael Myers, and I always give everybody a hard time. I always say, well, real men use a machete, not an Outback steak knife. And we go back and forth. He's a Leatherface fan.
He's a Leatherface.
Yeah, we go back and forth.
Well, what would you say to Sean being a Leatherface fanboy?
That's too bad.
That was easy.
It was my first.
Sean, why am I even going to waste energy on the conversation, partner?
Bye, Sean.
My square just disappears. Hey.
Right.
Hey, I will tell you, Sean, to be cool. In 2 weeks, I'll be down at the gas station where Leatherface original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was shot, doing autographs and stuff for fans.
Oh, that's awesome. I've heard a lot about that gas station as far as the memorabilia they sell, the fact they still sell barbecue and stuff. It's on my long list of stuff I want to get done.
Don't they have
I just want to let you know, Jason is going to step on Leatherface territory in about 2 weeks.
Excellent.
That is awesome, man. I wish I could get out. I'm being held prisoner, so I can't. Now I'm a 24/7 home health care nurse, so I'm pretty much stuck here because of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But I would love, to go to a convention and meet you one day. You were talking about Jason in part 6, and you the whole zombie thing. You're right about that, because a lot of people, after what happened in part 6, a lot of people that don't like that direction of Jason say, he just became a slow, lumbering. No, he didn't. Maybe a little bit later with like Kane, who did more of, the breathing and slower movement. But like your Jason was pretty quick, actually. Like you set up lightning fast. You weren't sitting there barely walking and stuff. You got after people in that movie. He wasn't slow and lumbering. I don't know where that comes from. I think people that complain about it.
Yeah, I think, Tom McLaughlin wanted Jason to have more of a methodical approach. but not too much. I don't, it's not like, he's planning out his plan of attack to take an LZ, but he really wanted to have some method to his madness, so to speak. And he wanted me to walk with straight up power and force, and to look at a different perspective. My perspective is, number one, you're not going to stop me. I'm 6'3", 250. So I'm either going through or I'm going to go through. There's no two ways about it. And that was my whole thought process during the film. There was never let me see what I can do. No, I'll do it. You want me to go through the door? I got this. You want me to go through that wall? I got this. So there were scenes physically that I had to step outside normal comfort zone, but I was able to perform. Some of that was due to the actors and actresses I worked with too. Darcy, that she physically allowed me to take her face, lift her up, and throw it into a camera lens. Physically throw it and stop as close as I could get to a camera lens. She trusted me. Tom Finley, he trusted me with a real knife to take it and thrust it towards his head and stop. And then we went into, so all that could have been just tremendously bad if something would have went wrong or I had a bad day. But I was fortunate that I worked with some really great actresses and actors that really gave me the advantage from a physical perspective to do what I had to do.
Well, there's a couple parts of the movie that affected me differently as like a child and then now as a father. The first thing I want to ask, it's a two-parter here.
Is this the one you ask every time we do a Jason thing?
Yes, and I asked Tom too, and he had a good answer. But I'm going to ask Jason himself here. Was Jason going to kill little Nancy, or was he kind of seeing his inner child and holding back a little bit because she was innocent? What was going on there?
So let me give you a platform of 2 and 3. The reason I say 2 and 3, number one, let's go back to Frankenstein with the little girl in the river, handing Frankenstein the flower. He's thinking, in realizing. Secondarily, I tell people this all the time, Jason doesn't kill children. All right, so be good. And number 3, just for the record, little Nancy, who now is in her 40s and has a child who is 6 years old, contacted Tom McLaughlin about 8 months ago, and her 6-year-old wanted a hockey mask but didn't want one of the white ones from Target. Tom called me and got one that was almost picture perfect, and I sent it to Tom and autographed it. Tom then sent it to her to give her little 6-year-old. So I want you to think about that equation. That little girl, now in her 40s, has a 6-year-old son that knows who Jason is.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Like, I'm okay with kids getting into horror because I did it and I didn't turn out too crazy, just a little bit. And my daughter has always been into like horror and stuff. She's 11 now, but from the time she was like 4 years old, she was asking mall Santa Clauses for Chucky and Jason movies, and making me feel pretty awkward in a line of parents. But she wants to be a makeup artist for movies when she grows up. Savini is one of her heroes, has been since she was like 5, and I think that's really cool. So some people would be like a 6-year-old's too young, but I don't think so. I think it's a case by case. But you just answered a question I've had about part 6 for a long time, and I knew it. Jason doesn't kill kids. I got it. Thank you so much for that. That's something I've been asking so many different people. I got the straight answer from the man himself. The other part of that two-parter was, it's cool that something affected me as a kid with the movie, and then something else can, I can connect with as a father now, is the scene with the sheriff, where you do probably the best kill in the movie, the back breaking, folding in half. That's actually a really powerful scene for dramatically to put yourself in the position of the dad, seeing your daughter, your little girl, about to be killed, and that moment of you'll die for your children, and he knew he was going out there to die, and it's just crazy that a slasher movie could give me the feels, as a dad. It's just a testament to how much what I think of this movie and how great it actually is. It was just a perfect storm, man. We had you were the perfect Jason for that movie, and Tom was the perfect. He had the perfect image for it. I don't think it would have worked with anyone else, honestly, without y'all's combination.
Yeah, I will tell you, Josh, one thing of interest is, and it's an interesting point. That kill, I'll give you a little insight, was two different people. There was a hole in the ground. One guy was with his head from his waist down in the hole, and the sheriff was standing right against him up with his shirt pinned to it. So when he bent back in the other guy's legs. That's how simple that stunt is. But the effects of the breaking of the bone. Sometimes people ask me, what's my favorite kill? That's my favorite kill. A good friend of mine, Kane Hodder, he'll tell you his favorite kill is the sleeping bag.
Yeah.
There's similarity. It's all power. There's no blood. There's no guts. Yeah. But the breaking of bones, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, and that noise, man. And you know what really upsets me about these Jason movies is all the stuff that like the MPAA cut out wouldn't get cut out now.
Yeah, that's true. And unfortunately, Joshua, in the 80s, that was real tape. Of course, it went on the ground. They swept it up, and that was it. It's gone forever.
Yeah.
Today, everything was digitalized, where it may just sit in the archives forever. But it's too bad that Tom wasn't able to go into archives and do a director's cut from a popularity perspective, because all of those kills had special effects to them beyond. And per Tom, he would have had an X rating if he wanted to keep them in. So he had to keep cutting them down to get to a 17 rating, R17, which he did. But, if you remember the guy that played Horseshack, when I pulled his heart out, it was actually pumping blood in the air, not just little bit, but it was squirting everywhere. It was pretty gory, and he had to take it out. When I was twisting off the head, it actually shows the twisting of the skin and just decapitation and the blood squirting out. It was Tom McLaughlin did a great job. And again, the people called Real Effects, REEL, Real Effects, was the company that did all the special effects.
That is just, it's just so sad that all that footage is just gone. Man,
tearing down a work of art.
It is. It really is. Because what would have got an X rating back then would be like almost a PG-13 now. It's so gratuitous now, but really, it wasn't in those kind of movies to me. Maybe it's just maybe I'm older now, and I'm like, the movies were way better back then. But it just didn't seem as gratuitous in those movies. And now it's like there's no ceiling anymore. There's no awe like there was.
I think, and this is an opinion, I think the reason people like those movies so much better than a lot of films today. Now, to be fair, the films of today are making hundreds of millions of dollars. So monetarily, tenfold. But I will tell you, the fan base is just as large. Some of those big movies out there today, they're one time. You'll go see it one time, but I can probably guarantee you watch Part 6 more than once.
Oh yeah.
That's a go back to film. But when you're shooting those films, they're pretty simple. They're not done with computer animation. They're not done with wires and cables and, all this computer generated. It's straight up, Tom Savini is pushing a syringe through, a tube to squirt blood out. I mean, it's simplistic, but at the same time, it's got different value. And when you look at those things that Jason is doing, I'm serious. Joshua, you open the door when you leave this interview, he could be standing outside the door realistically.
Right. Yeah.
And, seriously, you think, oh, okay, that's a good point. You open up the window in the morning and the guy with the hockey mask is standing there. That's pretty straight up possibility, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that, the interesting thing about it is when you were talking about the youthfulness of some of our fans, I had a show before 2020 that I did, and a young man about 20 came up to me, got emotional, dropped a tear, because when he was in high school, he got a little bullied. But his freedom was to go home and watch his 1986 VHS Jason, not because he wanted to hurt anybody, but he knew he was different, and it was okay to be different. Now, what Jason Part 6 has to do with psychology, I have no idea. But what a moment for me to think, you're kidding. I I made somebody feel better about a slasher movie from the 80s, like your daughter, you know what? At least she knows the difference between fake and real, and she enjoys fake, and she knows what it is. And if she becomes a special effects artist, which I have no doubt she's got the right path, just think who's going to be the next Tom Savini.
That would be awesome. And that's what I love, seeing her pick it apart, because she's not looking at it for the kill. Like, she's trying to tell me how they did it, you know? And that's
thinking.
just, yeah, it's so
She's
cool to see
thinking.
that.
There's another gentleman out there. I don't know if you've heard of Tom Devon,
Yeah.
special effects artist. Tom has a museum, monster museum in Boulder City, Nevada. And I've been there before, signing autographs at his place. And he had a young person. He has classes like Tom Savini going through. And I made a phone call one day to that young person on the phone to, give him a pep talk about what he was doing. He was only 12 years old, but it made his week probably, because Jason was calling him on the phone personally to talk about his career in special effects.
That is awesome, man. That's really cool of you. It really is. And, I want to tell you something, and I'm not just saying this. This is the truth. I actually told this to someone else I interviewed that was in a straight to DVD, straight to video movie back in the 90s called Carnosaur 2. I did an interview with him. I had a similar situation growing up, being bullied. And I understand where that person was coming from, because that was my escape, was going to the video store on the weekend, renting up some, scary movies. And that was my world. I didn't have any friends that were into it, but it's like the movies were my friends. That was my escape. And it's the only time I felt like I could be myself, because I was constantly trying to be what I thought other people wanted me to be so they would like me, So thank you, for being a part of that too, because I totally understand where that person's coming from. It's a real thing, man. It really helps. So.
And I'll give you an idea, and when you think about it, it's interesting. The thing about Jason, Michael Myers, etc., is going back to what you said. Anybody, tall, big, short, medium, I don't care if you're from Pluto, Venus, or Mars, you put a hockey mask on, you become that character. You become powerful.
Yeah.
And it is all of a sudden, anybody can put a hockey mask on and become Jason, and they do characteristically become Jason. I'll have 7-year-olds come up to my table, no exaggeration, full wardrobe, won't say a word.
Oh, that is
just
awesome.
stand there and look at me. Their parent does all the talking. They'll point to the picture they want, and then I'll say, okay, well, good job standing character. Now take the mask off so we can talk. They take the mask off, and now there's just a 7-year-old talking, and you can't shut them up at that point. But a 7-year-old stays totally in character, and I've had boys and girls 7 years old in the last 12 months do a convention, be in character, and do not break character. And then I have full adults my age come through. They don't break character. They just stand there and look at you.
That can be unsettling, but cool.
But I will tell you, putting a hockey mask on is special. And if you think about it, it's kind of interesting, because in the old days, who wants to wear a mask? Everybody wants their face to be seen. I'm going to be in the movies. I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to be Zorro. But it's interesting because in today's element, some of the biggest DC and comics and Marvel films out there, people are wearing masks. I mean, think about it. I mean, they wear masks. Batman wears a mask.
Yeah.
So everybody that used to taunt at us that wear a mask, they just kind of look at us today and go, I can't believe it. You put a hockey mask on and 3 decades later, they still want to talk to you. So
and it's an honor to talk to you.
It is. For me, it's an honor just to be appreciated. Like, had no idea, for the last 25 years, I've been an executive, chief operating officer, or general manager of casino resorts, suit and tie. And I knew the shows were still out there, the conventions, and I knew they were kind of growing. But I never really realized until 4 years ago I retired. And I thought, wow, and all of a sudden the phone started ringing. I'm like, okay. Everybody, just the Jason iconic image had taken off. And, a friend of mine, Kane Hodder, he did number 7 through, X, they call it 10. And he did a great job. I mean, he's been a great, I call him a cheerleader and he gets mad, but a great ambassador of the Jason series. Not only did he do 4, but he's been out there every weekend around the world promoting Jason and kind of laying out the platform for me to go, hey, I'm still here. And people really do appreciate it. So I always say kudos to Kane because he's a great ambassador. You know, Derek Mears is out there and done several different types of films, as has Ken. But, you know, Kane Hodder's claim to fame really has been the Jason Voorhees, along with the other 80 or 90 films he's done in his career. But that's been his bread and butter, and he loves it. He is a very classic individual to take the role of being an ambassador of Jason Friday the 13th.
A lot of people don't realize Freddy versus Jason wouldn't have happened without Kane. Like, he championed the project to get it. You know, he really pushed to get that movie made throughout the 10-year period, and it was so sad that he didn't get to play the part. But a lot of people don't realize he was pushing for that movie for a long time. So yeah, he's an ambassador of Jason for sure, man. He loves he loves it.
No, he does, and you know, that's like you talked to Tom McLaughlin, and you know, he has written in the last year a new script for Jason, and he is working on playing his poker hand to take part 13, theoretically what it would be, and bring Jason back. Maybe not Jason Lives, but maybe he's back or Jason Returns, but he wants to get back to the original platform of how he was able to relaunch the series from number 1 to 5 to part 6, and hopefully from where it's at now to number 13, which would be, of course, top of the top when it comes to being a Friday the 13th.
Yeah, it's time for part 13. Yes, you know, and it's got to be Tom. I got to ask you, would you ever put the mask back on?
You know, it's Tom has already had that conversation with me, and he's went on podcast and already made it clear he'd like me to resurrect. Like I said, he's seen me in the wardrobe 2 weeks ago, let alone doing conventions in the last few years. It's a match made in hell,
man. Come on, it's perfect.
Well, the nice thing about it is you don't see my ugly face. It's just 6'3", 250 pounds, and I'm still there. I'll put it to you this way. If I could give you, my fans, a product of quality or better than part 6, I'd do it. If I didn't feel I could resurrect as good as part 6 or better, I'd have to step away because I don't want to embarrass myself and not be able to give you a better creation than I did in part 6. I don't want to be a has-been.
I can respect that.
I would look at it, but it would have to be, you know, I don't want to go to space, number one. But I want to be able to give you a performance where you can go, oh, that's sweet. Other than, he should have stayed retired.
I don't think I could ever say that.
In that case, sorry, go ahead.
Sean?
Oh, no, I was going to segue off something, but when you're done with what you're saying, I'll go to that.
Well, so Sean, what I just want you guys to understand, yes, I would entertain it. You probably know that I was up for part 7. Kane pursued it heavily with John, which is fine. Paramount had to make the approval from John, and then Kane did a great job, and I really support him. Jason versus Freddy, you probably heard Kane mention that there was a call from my management about it. And I was a chief operating officer over 2 different casino resorts with about 2,500 employees. And, they pay okay, but they don't pay that much money, guys. I wasn't going to quit a job and go look at doing something. And, so I had to pass.
I didn't even know that. Honestly. That's a new one for me.
Yeah. And, if you guys know Ken, great guy. Ken, I learned this about 2 years ago. Ken is 6'6". I don't know if you know that. I'm 6'3". They put him in a 2-inch platform to make him 6'8", and that's from Ken. He told me that. I had no idea. I mean, he's already a big man, but they made the man 6'8", so they really put him out there. But again, if opportunity knocked, I'd look at it. But I really want to be able to give my fans that have been so supportive, something of part 6 premium, or step back and let the new, whoever that is, Derek Mears did a great job.
He
Kane
did.
Hodder, if that was the case. Any of those folks. I would love to, if they ever do a part 13, I'd love to have a cameo in it, at least as me, and get whacked by the new Jason. I think that'd be fun.
What if there was a movie where multiple people played Jason?
I don't. This is a personal opinion. It's like an ass.
Just
Everybody has one. I don't think the fans would embrace it. I think the fans want to see a certain characteristic. My physical structure is different than Kane's. Ken's is different than mine. Derek Mears is different than mine. And our movements are of difference. The only similarity is wearing a hockey mask.
That's what I meant was like, 4 of the best Jasons, and like we're in on it. We know that it's, each of them playing a part of the movie as Jason. It was just a fun idea, like a dream to see all my favorite Jasons out there in one flick. But
well, I'll tell you a side twist that I would throw at it if it was my decision, and it's not. What if all the Jasons that are still with us have cameos as themselves playing cops, technicians, whatever, and they all get whacked by whoever the new hockey mask guy is?
That would be cool.
So
because
like
now you get
metaphorical of just killing off all the other actors.
Metaphorical, because now all of a sudden I'm the bus driver. I get killed by whoever Jason is, and then here's Kane Hodder changing a tire and he gets whacked. I think the fans would enjoy seeing the torch passed on to whoever that person is going to be. And to me, whoever they decide, you know what? I'm sure they're going to make a very strong decision, because part 13 really has to become the launching platform. I'd like to think as part 6 was. So we'll see what happens.
How perfect would it be if the original kid Jason, all grown up, was killed in the movie while swimming? That would
exactly.
It'd be perfect to come full circle.
Well,
Sean,
no, Ari is, he has a band. He's a great artist. Just think if he's at Camp Crystal Lake performing with his band and he goes out with a girl swimming and all of a sudden he's gone.
That would be perfect.
There are some real sick twists that could be added to it that the fan base would embrace, but it also sets it up for the future.
Yeah. Sean, what was your question going to be? Your segment?
Well, Josh, for his channel, he reviews a lot of the Black Flame Jason books, and a lot of times we try to cast which Jason we think would fit
the
best
story.
in his character.
It's original novels that were released on the character. Yeah.
Because I was thinking your particular Jason would have been great for. There was this one called Hate, Kill, Repeat. It took the place of, instead of going to Manhattan, Jason kind of caused hell at a hotel that was building on Crystal Lake. It was an interesting concept. There were also serial killers in the book that were trying to mimic Jason, and they thought he fit their criteria for the people that should be killing, so they tried to join forces with him, and it was really interesting. But I could see your character being in there. I didn't know if you had been familiar with that book or not.
No, but interesting enough, you both may already know this, but Kane Hodder and myself did a film last year, a little over a year ago, that's sitting on the shelf ready for release with Deborah Voorhees, which is called 13 Fanboy.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And Dee Wallace has the lead in it. Laura Park Lincoln is in it, with several other iconic horror figures. And, it's shooting with the concept of a wannabe or a copycat at a horror convention.
Oh, that's perfect. Like, I've shown one of the original trailers and stuff, and talked to Deborah a bit, and did some advertising for it whenever they were first starting out. I'm really looking forward to seeing
and it's
that
done.
one.
It's ready to go. It's been done for quite some time. It's just, distribution may be different than normal, and we've gone more to streaming. So I'm sure she's and Joel are working to decide where they want that distribution to go. But that kind of has that flavor of some of the iconic horror figures and other, Cujo with Dee and Laura Park Lincoln and some of the others that have been fortunate enough to be part of this craziness of iconic horror symbols to be all on one set. And we had a blast doing that in New Mexico.
That's one.
Can't wait to see that.
Yeah. I was going to tell you, the scene he's talking about from that book, CJ, is Jason walks into this hotel, and there's people everywhere, and he just mows them down, making his way to the person he's trying to get to. And I can totally agree with that, your version of Jason, I think, would have a field day with that scene. Just walking through and mowing through people.
Right. Well, Sean, you heard me say it earlier. My job was I'm coming at you, and there's no way you're going to stop me. So I'm coming through you, or I'm coming through you. So not knowing about that book, it's kind of interesting of our thought process of similarities.
It would be cool to see him take that on.
Although I couldn't see your Jason in Hell Lake, that book. That was a Jason I don't think we've ever seen before. But that was an interesting Friday the 13th novel.
Yeah, that didn't even feel like Jason. But I wanted to jump over to Vengeance, if we could, for a second. Because that was a interesting turn of events, having Elias Voorhees. What did you think of playing that part? And he gets some kills, too.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, quite a few. It was an interesting concept. It still is. I've been asked to do Vengeance Bloodlines, and they want to put the Elias Voorhees a little more 50-50 with the Jason, so it becomes more of a family affair, so to speak. But as you indicated earlier, trying to go back on the philosophy of Jason and how he died and getting into his mind, that's kind of getting into that storyline of, well, how did Jason get his DNA? Was it really from his mother, Ms. Voorhees, or was it from the father DNA-wise? The interesting thing is that the man that played Jason, whose name is Jason Brooks to be exact, very, very similar physical structure as me. I might be just a tad bit thicker, but height-wise, and when we squared off, it was really perfect because it was eye to eye. That's my beard. I grew it for 4 months. I'm proud of my silver beard.
It's the best I can do right here.
Yeah, we used the wig, of course, to get that more of a Norwegian, Viking look. But when you see me physically standing there, it is structurally looking at Jason with a hockey mask, but it's the father. We had a good time with that. They did a very good job, considering it wasn't a Paramount, New Line, whatever. That was a fan-based film, and they did an excellent job. I think they learned a few things that they could improve upon. But I will say, they did a good job, and I'm very interested to see how Bloodlines comes back when they start shooting that. My understanding is the latter part of this year, because they need to give me a 4-month notice so I can grow the beard.
At least 4 months, right? And
mine's 4 months, and I'm good. So it comes out pretty good. But I think the other thing interesting is playing Elias Voorhees. Nobody's ever done it.
Yeah.
So I get to kind of own that comic character, of who he is and what it looks like. So, I think it's an interesting perspective. Don't forget Tom McLaughlin had a part in that.
Yeah, that caught me off guard. When Tom was on, I was like,
yeah.
Tom.
So that was kind of neat that Tom did a cameo in it and stuff. But I thought it was very well shot overall, considering it wasn't a multi-million-dollar film. It was, a small budget, and they worked their butts off to shoot that film. They really did.
And there's a big full circle thing here, too, back to Jason Lives, because that's where the Elias character originated. It was supposed to be at the end of the movie. The novelization for the movie actually has Elias in it. It has that scene.
Right.
So yeah, that is at the graveyard. It's cool that's you played the character Elias that originated from Tom's script of Jason Lives. It was just a perfect full circle scenario, and I'm looking forward to Bloodlines. I've heard a little bit. We actually talked to Jason Brooks here on the show, and really nice guy. I could tell he took a lot of pride in the part, and he seemed very honored to be able to take it on, fan film or not. There's been a slew of fan films, and I think they're all doing really good jobs respecting the property. But I've even said it before. Out of them, Vengeance feels the most like a sequel, mostly like a sequel to Jason Lives, if anything. I like the Elias thing. That really, really worked with it. I can tell you had fun with that part. He had some
Yeah.
good kills, man. He really did.
You know what? Yeah, there would. And I have not seen, I've seen one script, but I will tell you there's quite a bit of Elias Voorhees in it, which I think they're going to play ping pong, so to speak, with the concept of Elias Voorhees. I keep telling Kane Hodder, I'm going to take on Hatchet, bring him, So I figure Elias and Hatchet can go after it.
That would be.
So,
I would watch it. I'd pay to watch it.
I give him a hard time about that. When it's time to do the next Hatchet, how about if you take on Elias Voorhees and we'll play opposites?
Do it, man. I would love to see something like that, or any part, where two Jasons go at it. That would be pretty badass, actually, to see you and Kane go at it in a movie, for sure.
I told him though, nobody has to lose. It's kind of a draw because I can't, concede.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we did 13 Fanboy, I was fortunate because Kane died in it. He gets whacked.
Spoiler. No.
Yeah, he gets whacked, and I get to be the hero at the end.
Okay.
So that's kind of cool. I get pretty effed up, and I learned that's why you asked me. I learned that some of those stunts they're pretty good at them, to be honest with you. But for about 30 days afterwards, I felt it.
Yeah. See, I did pro wrestling for 10 years, and I'm almost 40 now, and I'm just now starting to feel those 10 years every morning. Getting out of bed, getting my joints to work, my knee to pop. Pro wrestling is a lot like stunt work, I've heard.
I would say you guys probably have, bust your ass more. And the reason I say that is it sounds to me like, pro wrestling is a nightly versus, stunt work is weekly. Maybe you might have a couple months with nothing, but I will tell you that week and a half or week of shooting and flying all over in the air physically and fighting and being thrown into trees physically, I was bruised up. For a month, I was in pain.
That's what I was going to ask, if you were feeling that for a while. I mean, I'm
for
sure.
At least a month. I mean, when I did Jason in '86, I was a little younger, obviously, and there, I didn't even have anything, to be quite honest. A few bruises, but I can get those walking down the street. But when I did the 13 Fanboy, I had some pretty good size black and blue spots on my body.
Right, and those stick around a little longer the older you get.
Oh yeah. I ain't gonna lie. That's why I said, Sean, to be honest, I'd be honored if Tom McLaughlin says, at the end of the day, it's not going to be totally his call. The studios may have somebody in mind, but if Tom McLaughlin said, "Hey, I've got the approval, you in?" I'd look at it, and if I could do the script and I could do my own stunts. I could tape my knees up like any other football player and my legs, my ankles. I probably could, but I really want to make sure I can deliver on that could. I did find out, like I said, a year ago when we did 13 Fanboy, ouch, shit hurts. Right. And the reason for that, both of you are reasonably young men. And to be quite honest, both of you could be my son. So my point to that is when you're your age, maybe not you, Joshua, but when you're your age, you tuck and roll. When you're my age, you go thump.
Yeah.
Trust me, when my horse took me off and put me in the fence a couple years ago, it wasn't like tuck and roll. I tried to, but I hit the fence so fast I didn't know what hit me. So
see, that's the first thing they teach us in wrestling is you spend your whole life trying not to fall down. And the first thing you have to learn in wrestling is how to fall.
Yeah. And as you get older, your body doesn't quite tuck and roll like it should as quickly.
Yeah.
And like I said, you go thump.
Yep. That's the best way to put it. I've had that. My knee is shot. My back is shot. Actually, that's what ended my wrestling was a guy broke my back.
That's awful. I mean, and again, I've got A, B, C, D, no big deal, but you guys don't forget. I mean, I get a little bragging rights here. In about a week and a half, I'll be 64.
Man, you're kicking ass.
So now, to be fair, let's go back when Ted White, who's still with us, he's a great man in his 90s. He was in his late 50s when he did Jason.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the question, theoretically. But I am 64, the 26th of February. So, like I said, I've earned this salt and pepper hair. Still physically, structurally the same, thank goodness. But, again, performance is most important to me. I don't want to be a has-been.
We would never see you that way, but I completely understand, the risk and everything. And it would be an honor and amazing to see you play the role again, but not at the cost of like permanent damage or, really, we don't want that, man.
Absolutely.
Just whatever you decide, man, the fans are gonna support it. I hope at the very least, if this movie happens, which I really believe it's going to, that the other idea happens. You get to play a character that Jason gets to have a good kill with. That would be pretty cool. You got to hold your own for a minute, though. At least a minute. It can't be one of them quick kills. It's got to be Jason's got to have a little bit of a fight.
Just 1 pound off, just one block is. But I really believe the fans, if the word was out that all the existing Jasons are going to be whacked, I think fans that don't know our faces, and even fans that do, are going to say, "Oh, I got to see this. I got to see this." Because you, as a pro wrestler, at the end of the day, now there is one champion. There's not a bunch of us out here retired. We're all dead, theoretically, with the movie. So whoever that champion is gets to move on with the big belt.
Yeah. Yep. And, in wrestling, we have this thing, whenever you're dropping the belt to someone, you do everything you can to make them look good going forward. And it's a respect thing. So, I totally get that, with, you and the other Jasons helping that Jason move on.
Joshua, I'll tell you that's one thing, as you heard me say, I don't care if it's Ted White, Ari, Kane, these men that I've been associated with and fortunate to be part of an iconic group, they've been great at what they did. We all had our time in the moment. We've lost Richard, of course, and we've lost Steve, and Ted White's still hanging in there, my man, but he's, I think, 94 or 93, give or take. None of us are going to be here forever. And, I'm still fortunate to be with that group of folks that's still here.
And, man, it's been an honor having you here with us tonight.
Thank you.
I want to throw a little bit of levity in before we close this out. I heard a story about that RV in the filming. Something about a freezer or something that was on top of that camper that Tom wanted to keep, and during that scene it got stolen or something. Do you know anything about that?
No, I don't, to be quite honest, but I will tell you the interesting thing about the camper scene is that camper scene, once that camper hit the ground, that door that flies in about 6 feet in the air, that's a real camper door. All they did was undo the hinges. And I squatted down, and they put a box on me so I could get real tight, and I hit that full force with my fist.
Oh, and wow.
It blew off. We all just were, even I was amazed.
All right, I gotta mark something off my bucket list real quick. I'm marking off pick a fight with C.J. Graham.
Oh, so, no, I'm your best friend at a bar fight.
No, I took off the pick a fight with you.
Yeah.
So that's off there.
But I hit that, and again, fortunate enough that I was able to take one step out and keep my balance and walk to the edge, because you can't see anything without falling off the damn thing. But there's some cool things. One thing Tom may or may not mention, Tom McLaughlin, he still has the granite, or I guess it's rock, granite, stone, Jason Voorhees. He still has that. And, fun fact is the very last scene that we did underwater with the motor hitting the side of the face for Jason, we did that in Tom McLaughlin's mother and father's pool in their backyard. True story. And Tom went down to the deli that day and picked up all the blood and guts from pigs to make that scene. And I still remember his responsibility was to clean the pool.
I bet.
True story.
That is great.
I don't think I'll ever see that
the
scene
pool,
again.
son, but you're cleaning it up.
Yeah, we did
know,
that in the backyard.
It's funny you mention coming out of that small door and not being able to see it and all that, because like each of these movies, you hear a story similar to that. I heard Kane in part 7, I believe, had to jump through a window, and he literally had like 4 feet, and he's a tall guy too, and he had to land in that. So it's crazy that the similarities there, that you had a situation like that with the RV.
Right. I will tell you, either one of you, I really think I encourage you to put a hockey mask on, black one eye out, and I want you to notice how your peripheral vision is gone. When you walk, you can't see your feet. Just try it. It's a true story. The point I'm trying to is everything I had to do was through solid firmness. When I went through that door and that door blew, the object was for me to get my first and second steps down and not step on the wood and roll my ankle or go down. So we'd have to shoot again. Thank goodness I got fortunate and went through. When I went through the wall with the door, with the wall stepping down outside the cabin, that was about a 12-inch step down. So the first powerful blow with my right leg going through it with the glass exploding, I had to get down about 12 inches with one firm step. Otherwise, I was going down, and we'd have to
that was
reshoot.
all you, right? That was all
That's
you.
all me.
The
There's no cheating in none of that. That's straight up me. So I got lucky. I was lucky. I didn't fall. I didn't get hurt.
You have one of the scariest scenes in any Jason movie as well. I'm sorry if I'm keeping you too long. Whenever you're walking along the cabin, as she's walking on the inside, there's just something ultimately creepy about that scene that none of the other films has a scene like that. That he's just so close enough to touch, and he's just walking alongside right there. So kudos on that.
That's a good example, Joshua, that we're talking about the eyesight. I couldn't see the girl. And the reason I couldn't is because I couldn't turn my head that far. And if I turned my head that far, it wouldn't have that ominous appearance.
Exactly.
So I had to turn my head just enough to get a tilt and then try to walk in connectivity with her as she's walking, which really is the camera. So me and the camera are trying to work in sync, but I can't see anything. And I'm walking on the outside of a real cabin on dirt, trying to make sure I don't trip and fall.
Did you scare any kids on the set?
No. Like I said, Jason doesn't scare kids. I didn't go on the set until I was
didn't mean
called.
on purpose. I didn't mean on purpose. I meant on
No. You know what? None of the kids, they didn't see me that often. And when they did, everybody stayed away from me for whatever reason. I don't know if it was just the fear factor, or they just didn't. Nobody really knew what I looked like. They just knew I was this massive thing standing there. I didn't talk, so I didn't have to practice lines. They would say, let's do a shoot. I didn't say anything. I just did what Tom told me, but I never spoke to one of the actors and actresses. So to them, I was just a menacing object.
That's got to be a crazy feeling, man. You're such an iconic Jason in this movie that lives on for decades, and you didn't have to say one line,
No.
and we know it's C.J. Graham. We could have 3 Jasons right now walking and not being able to tell who they are by looking at them. We could tell you who's C.J. Graham, who's Kane Hodder, just the way that you portrayed the character. It's just awesome. That's got to be an awesome feeling. It's got to be.
It is, and even though most people don't know me by face. I mean, I've been to Universal Studios 10 years ago with my kids, and somebody would go, "Hey, you played Jason." I mean, we're talking Universal Studios, the place is full. I've been through TSA and had the agent look at my name and look at me and go, "You the guy that played Jason?" They know the name,
That's awesome. Yeah.
So even though we're not a Tom Cruise, we still have that worldwide iconic image, and fortunate to be one of those few people that have played the part.
I'll take Jason Voorhees over Tom Cruise any day of the week. So as
Adam
far
Tully.
as
I think Tom is 5'7", 5'8", maybe.
Yeah.
So
that, without the platforms, it's like 5'2", I think. Something.
You said it. I didn't.
All right, man. Thank you so much. It's been an honor having you on. Can you hang around for a second after we close out here? But yeah, we're gonna do a quick little outro here, and then I wanted to chat with you for a second off the record. But man, I know you're a busy guy. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been great. Guys, thank you so much for supporting the channel and watching along with us. This has been an honor of the entire time I've had this channel. It's the greatest honor I've had, getting to chat with CJ Graham. Great guy. Really glad I had this opportunity. We'll see you next time. Be excellent to each other. Sean, you want to say bye?
Yep. Bye. Thank you for coming on.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Hello, my friends. This is Tom McLaughlin, writer-director of Jason Lives, Friday the 13th, Part 6. Also lead singer of The Sloths. And you are listening to the 80s Slasher Librarian.
Greetings, Slashaholics! Welcome to episode 19 of Out of Print Slashers. I am Sean Campbell. I am joined by the 80s Slasher Librarian, Josh LaRue. How you doing tonight?
Doing good, Sean. Thank you.
Excellent. And we have a special guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself for the fans?
You want me to introduce me? Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm Tom McLaughlin, and as some of you know, writer-director of Friday the 13th, Jason Lives, Part 6.
Yeah, see, this was an interesting one.
I was waiting for applause. I guess I'm not going to get it. Thank you.
I saw this one out of order. This must have been the third Friday the 13th I saw, because my Blockbuster just had bits and pieces of every franchise. So this was a really energetic intro into the Friday the 13th series. I mean, how do you go from Part 6 to watching like Part 3? You know, it's kind of like a weird dynamic there, but absolutely love this movie.
Thank you.
Sean came into the horror genre late in life, so some of these movies he hasn't seen yet. But he talks about like Freddy and Jason movies, seeing them out of order and stuff. So I have to remember that sometimes with his opinions and likes and dislikes.
Yeah, because every time I have an opinion, everyone wants to jump on me. I'm like, hey, blame Blockbuster.
Yeah, blame Blockbuster. There you go. But yeah, thank you so much, Tom, for joining us tonight. Can't wait to talk about the movie and this other Jason thing you've been talking about. I'm curious to ask you about that.
Okay.
Real quick, I want to say thank you to the patrons of the channel. So tonight's podcast is brought to you by Tony DeVore, Simonoli, Tyrone Kennard, Nick Belkov, Jeffrey Quick, Daniel Mackey, David Arnold, Alex Vanover, Krista Campbell. That's your mother, right, Sean?
That's right.
Rob Davey, Jay Gardner, Willow Ravenwood, Lauren Vaught, Kristen Kay, Michael, William Schaefer, Liam Anderson, Bree Girl, Bonanza Jellybean, Ryan Woodward, Allison Sibe, Iron Alexa, Hawaii, not the state, Cecilia Spears, Sean Campbell, Catherine McClear, and Carl Eakins. Thank you all, and thank you, Sean.
Wow, that's great. That's more people than seen the movie, I think.
I don't know about that. This is okay. The first question.
That's great. That's very cool.
Yeah, they're amazing people. What I do is really expensive. Getting all these old out of print books and trying to preserve them. People are selling these books nowadays for hundreds of dollars sometimes, and it's a heck of a mission. I've done 50 of them so far.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, I wish that they would just reprint the things and I wouldn't be needed. But this way they don't slip into obscurity. I got to say, I always enjoyed the beginning of Friday 6. The kind of like, if you compare it to the beginning of Friday 5, it's almost like Tommy kind of had a premonition in Part 5 and that dream of how he would eventually resurrect Jason Voorhees. You know, did that beginning of Part 5 play any part in your writing the resurrection?
No, in fact, I don't even remember that, to be honest. No, the marching orders for me was basically we're going to kind of pick up where Part 4 left off, And, I mean, we're not going to say 5 didn't happen, but don't follow that storyline. And so the main thing was bring Jason back from the dead. So the first idea instantly, being an old Universal's monster fan, was the Frankenstein, legend of how to animate a body. So I always have argued the fact that he's not a zombie. He's more like what Frankenstein was: dead, resurrected, and now unstoppable monster. So yeah, no, I didn't. Other than the reference to that Haas says in the beginning about, if they caught us doing this, they'd throw us back in there and lock us up permanent. So it's only the kind of, I think that's the only reference to where he's been.
Okay. Well,
there was a. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just at the beginning of part 5, it's like Corey Feldman had the one part where he's dreaming that he's seeing these 2 guys go up to the grave of Jason, and they're checking to see if he's in there, and he comes out, and it was they didn't like stick a metal pole in him and lightning strike it or anything like that. I just always had this fun fan theory in my head that he saw like a premonition. He's watching himself do that, I know there's no continuity.
I love that. Fine. I love that. Let's go with it.
So
there's so many things, so many holes along the way with the series that you kind of have to make up your own mythology to make it make sense. Because when people were making movies, it's sort of like, well, I don't want to do what we did in the last one, or wouldn't it be cooler if the mask looked like this? Well, that doesn't match. But it looks better. So everybody's always coming up with stuff, and that whole thing of from the original Friday to part 2. I mean, the timeline is all depends on your theory on that.
Exactly.
How did that happen?
And it's fun to do that. Like, I've got a little theory I'll talk about later that connects 8 and 9, But a big thing about this movie was kind of the vibe of the movie that you went with, kind of a self-parody. A lot of people see it that way anyways. I just think that it didn't take itself, it was just a fun movie. It didn't try to take itself too seriously. From the James Bond intro, which is like the best out of the entire series.
Oh, thanks.
I use that clip a lot in my intros for Jason books.
There was actually a bit of subtle imagery that I really enjoyed in the beginning. I mean, first of all, the cinematography in this movie is just fantastic, but...
John Granthouse, big shout out to him. He did a great job.
Yes.
One thing that gets me is that whenever there's a scary movie and there's skeletons, there's always worms, there's always maggots in the skeleton. I'm just like, what are they eating? There's nothing there, especially if they've been there for hundreds of years. But Jason, there's a big fan theory that he never fully died. Like, he was just really, really damaged. And it makes sense that there'd be maggots all over him because they would be continually eating what he's trying to regenerate. And when he gets that jolt of electricity, it finally brings him up to actually get out of the grave. And that's just a really powerful scene. Especially like going back and rewatching it, I'm just that's really cool.
Yeah, the book.
I love that. That's great.
The book itself says that the maggots couldn't even digest Jason.
Right.
They were trying to. Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's great.
Neither could the Killbillies, right?
Oh yeah, there's a book where some hillbillies try to eat Jason's dead body, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, what I was getting at is, like, we got the James Bond intro, and then we've got the whole credit card in the water thing. People shouting out, "Don't leave home without it." I bet that was a fun time. I wish I could have seen this movie in theaters. I was a bit young when it came out, but I saw it as soon as it hit VHS. And but yeah, so what was your connection? Your relationship with the series before you wrote part 6? Were you a fan of the previous movies going into this?
Well, I'll have to kind of tell you from a filmmaker's point of view. I grew up loving horror. I mean, Edgar Allan Poe was the first thing I kind of gravitated to when I was about 11 or 12. And of course, when I was a kid, it was all the Universal monster movies. Always felt like a freak myself, always felt like the outsider. So, those movies were perfect to have identification with. As the genre, kind of continued into the 60s which were all the kind of Roger Corman ones and stuff. And I used to ditch school and, go and watch those in the theaters that played them at noon. And it was basically me and pedophiles and a couple of homeless that would be in there. And then it was, when the 70s hit, the Omen and The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby. I mean, suddenly it became a very class act, with big stars and, incredibly emotional movies. They weren't low budget. So as the 70s continued, obviously with the slasher franchise after Halloween, who started it all, and I was a huge fan of that. Again, seeing it with an audience, you guys have no idea what it's like. I mean, it's like a roller coaster ride. I mean, where the audience is just constantly noise. When we had our preview of my Friday the 13th, I couldn't hear one damn thing through the whole screening. It was just one big roar that continued. And they had been standing out in line for about 8 hours waiting to come in. So they were, definitely toasted and ready to go. But that was like that in a lot of theaters. The crowd just really, was wild. So in terms of the slasher movies, I was trying to get this first movie I did, One Dark Night, off the ground. And it was really hard because everybody wanted, girls in a forest with some sort of masked, character. So there was every variation of that. I loved the first Friday the 13th. I thought it was really, really cool. When I saw the second one, my immediate reaction was Elephant Man. Why are they doing that? And I didn't quite get that. And then I sort of, there were so many of them, I kind of zoned out until The Job came. And then it was like, well, I better go back and do my homework and really look at these and try to put together some kind of mythology, something that, we could tell the audience, catch them, if they've never seen it before, catch them up with the history and so on. Yeah. So I really kind of came into it going, well, it's the sixth one. I want to have fun. I want to see the kind of movie that I would love to see. I wanted to have a sense of dark humor running through it. And, but at the same time, try to deliver the scares and bring things that had not been in one of those before, like the little kids at the camp, the underwater fight, the car chase, there were so many things, the motorhome thing. I just, I wanted to be more of like a really exciting movie that also was a Friday the 13th.
Yeah, and this was a return to Crystal Lake because, we saw Crystal Lake in the first one, but every other film was a camp across the lake. It was a rehabilitation camp. It was people's houses. But this was not only a return to the camp, but like you said, bringing back the children, changing the name to Forest Green, bringing in the counselor. So this very much was reviving pretty much everything that made this series great. And that's what I loved about this movie. The look of Jason, all the characters blending with each other, bringing back Tommy from part 4. I feel that this movie is what a lot of people try to make when they make new Friday the 13th movies, take the best parts and make it better, but sometimes it fails, sometimes it doesn't. But this movie succeeded on pretty much all points. It was pretty much everything I wanted from a Friday the 13th movie.
In a way, it was like a revival again. It was like a reboot after Part 5. And I am old enough to remember news stories and stuff about about fans really being hyped for Jason coming back. After Part 5 didn't go the way they wanted it to. Even though that movie was a success too, people wanted Jason back, and the title Jason Lives, man. I remember just seeing, like you talked about packed theaters, I remembered seeing like news stories where they were showing people lined up outside these places. It was a really big deal that year.
Yeah, and, they were events. All these movies were like events because people just had been waiting after the last one ended, when's the next one, and obviously the video market at that time really fed into that because like Nightmare on Elm Street wasn't that big of a hit, but when people started to see it on, on VHS and things, it built an audience so that then it just really took off.
I don't think we'll ever have a time like that again, where everything's like digital and stuff now. But I just used to love going to the video store, getting a VHS, seeing the new horror selections. But yeah, you mentioned something that I wanted to talk about. bringing in the little kids into the story. Because this is a big thing with this podcast and the books I've read. And
I know what question you're going to ask.
Yes, you do. I know that like they're probably like, don't let Jason kill a bunch of kids, but it just seemed like Jason was more intrigued by the children than he was wanting to kill the children. Like, because he could have went through that cabin and just killed them all in their bed.
Oh,
you know? Was that like him connecting with his lost childhood, or was he just getting ready to kill the kids? I got to know.
Okay. Well, from my standpoint, Jason really had an agenda in this movie. Very simple. Get this fucker that brought me back from the dead. I was relaxed. I was fine down there. I was resting in peace, and bang, now I'm back. So, first thing is I got to get the guy that did that. So there's kind of a clear, objective for him. And the same thing with Tommy. He screwed up. He came there to burn the body and make sure it's over. And all he did is bring him back from the dead. So they both had agendas. So when Jason comes into the cabin, he's looking, for Tommy. He's looking, to see if anybody confronts him, because obviously whoever gets in his face goes down. And, you've got a bunch of sleeping children. And then when he sees the little girl that looks at him, there is some kind of connection. And there's some stuff in there that, I'm sort of leaving open for the future. And there's some things like through the whole movie that I'm, planning on doing for, the sequel that I want to do. So there's elements that I tried to put in there just in case I ended up, doing another one. But at that time, I had no ideas, specifically what I could do that would make it different. Now I do. But at that time, the whole thing with children was like, to me, it made sense. Why wouldn't the camp open and have kids? And the locals think they're fooling people by changing the name to Forest Green because you say Camp Crystal Lake. Isn't that where all those kids were murdered? No, I'm not sending my kid to that camp. So it was all about covering up and pretend this didn't happen. And then, as the sheriff says, this crazy kid comes in there and starts talking Jason shit again, and he's going to lock him up and shut him up and get him the hell out of town. So they were really, denying that. But, Tommy says you could call it Forest Green, but it's still Camp Crystal Lake to Jason. So, and he's going to come back where obviously his hunting ground is.
How many movies is the hero responsible for the mess they're cleaning up? It's like you see that so much. The hero,
I think there's like 2 Iron Man movies where he's kind of responsible for the villain starting up. But wasn't Forest Green brought into Friday the 13th Hell Lake, the book?
Yeah.
Wasn't the Forest Green Police Department? Yeah, I think that trickled into that chaos of a book.
That book is so bad. Tom.
I don't even know about that. What is that?
Okay, there was these books put out in 2005 and 6 by Black Flame Publishing. I've narrated them. They're out of print too, but they were original stories. And this particular book, we have this theory that the guy had written a horror slasher novel, found out about the 25th anniversary thing, and just shoehorned Jason into it. Jason has a best friend in the book. Jason cries in the book. Jason wears a welder's mask because he prefers it over a hockey mask. He shoots a rifle a couple times.
I just remember someone shooting him in the ass and he screamed like a banshee.
He screamed, yeah. He gets shot in the sphincter and the privates. And he wears somebody's face like Leatherface at one point, drives a police car. It's horrible. It's so bad. But they use Forest Green instead of Crystal Lake for it. So.
Okay.
One big thing I'd like to ask is, was there anything you wanted to do in this movie that you didn't have the budget for, didn't have the time to do? I mean, I know there are a couple elements that made it into the novelization, but I was just looking to see if you were going to expand on that.
Most of it, I mean, they were really good to me. I mean, I really was able to make the movie I wanted to make. And all those kills certainly were, longer than you see it on the cut down version that was released. But I wouldn't say that they were incredibly more, graphic. as the stuff that John Buechler did on Part 7, where he really lost some major, bloodletting and blood and gore. So they're just kind of cut down more than anything else. But the big thing, of course, was Jason's father. I love the idea of introducing him as this particular character that just, looks just pure evil. I mean, that this guy would be where Jason would get that, that part of his DNA.
But you guys froze up.
And reason to not do it was that Frank was really afraid that fans would think the next one's going to be about Jason's father, and they felt after Part 5 and Tommy putting the mask on, a lot of people went, no, I'm not going to go see the next one if it's going to be Tommy as Jason. So that's why it was taken out, but it's still in the book because I think they saw my obviously original script on there.
In fact, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip of that scene from the book. I wasn't going to do this, but since Tom brought it up, I want everybody to be able to hear that at least, because this was his vision, and I think it would have been awesome in the movie myself. So yeah, if that's cool with you guys.
Sure.
All right. Martin crouched down over one of the graves in the Eternal Rest Cemetery, pulling up weeds. It was a warm day, and the old caretaker worked slowly. No need to work up a sweat, he told himself, because these folks ain't in no hurry. They sure ain't going anywheres. He chuckled at his own witticism. Yep, it sure is a good day, he thought, sun shining down, gently on a man's back, warming up his insides. Soft breeze blowing from the north, no forecast of rain for a change, so the arthritis wouldn't be acting up, and he had a full bottle of wild turkey waiting for when he finished up his chores. He sighed with contentment, grateful for the fact that his job was still secure. He'd be all right so long as he didn't ever have to sober up. A shadow fell across him, and the old alcoholic looked up, startled. A look of tense, frightened recognition passed over Martin's face, and he quickly dropped the weeds and struggled to his feet, dusting his palms off against one another. When he spoke, his voice was overly friendly, his manner that of a fawning servile dog. "You! You frightened me," he said, slouching, almost genuflecting. I was just, cleaning up the place, The tall man in the dark suit stood motionless, silently staring down at the old caretaker. Martin squirmed beneath the directness of the gaze. Nice to see you again, Mr. Voorhees," he said, bobbing his head, avoiding the man's eyes. "Haven't seen you in Crystal or Forest Green in quite some time." The thin, pale face was framed by long, dark red hair, heavily streaked with gray. It showed not a flicker of expression. The features were fine and chiseled, deeply etched. The mouth was thin and cruel, but the eyes... Don't look at them eyes, thought Martin, no matter what you do. "Hey, I've been taking real good care of your wife and son's graves," said Martin, his voice trembling slightly. "Go look, you'll be real pleased." Those eyes were like a snake's eyes, cold, feral, ancient. They made Martin think of mausoleums and crypts shrouded with cobwebs and covered with the dust of centuries. They made him think of beasts snarling and snapping at each other, teeth rending flesh and crunching bone. They made him feel as if 1,000 worms were writhing underneath his skin. The man silently reached into his back pocket, and his gnarled hand withdrew a wad of bills. Wordlessly, he handed the money to Martin, who took it gingerly, careful to touch only the wad of bills and not the claw-like hand. Thank you, Mr. Voorhees, thank you," Martin said, bowing and scraping like a serf before an aristocrat warlord. His face averted, looking at the ground, at the man's feet, shrinking from the burning gaze of those ancient, baleful eyes. "I'll leave you in private like you... okay, bye. Thank you, thank you." The old drunken caretaker scuttled away between the tombstones, clutching his money like a starving dog hangs on to a bone. Sweet Jesus, he thought, sweat pouring off of him, sweat that stank of sour mash. Thank God I got that grave cleaned up. He would have blamed me if he knew, but I cleaned it up. New sod and everything, and it looks good. Oh, thank God. Oh, Jesus, thank God. Voorhees walked slowly between the rows of headstones, with a stately measured tread, almost gliding, like a dark predatory jungle cat. He stopped before the pair of tombstones, marking the graves of his wife and son. He stared for a long moment at the simple inscriptions. Then his gaze slowly traveled downward to stare at his son's grave. The burning eyes narrowed slightly as they bored intently into the mound of earth. He leaned closer, and his eyes grew wider, his pupils dilated. It seemed as if he was looking right down into the earth, his gaze penetrating the soil like X-rays, seeing the coffin of his son and the strange broken body that it held now, the corpse of Alan Hawes. Slowly, Jason's father straightened and turned to look after the old caretaker. Inside his shack, Martin upended the bottle of wild turkey and drank deeply, feeling the fire of the whiskey burn his throat, unable to stop shaking. He suddenly felt cold, as if someone had walked over his grave. He couldn't stop shivering. He sank down into the floor in the corner of his little shack, hugging the whiskey bottle to him with both arms, trembling like a leaf and saying over and over, "I didn't, I swear I didn't, Mr. Voorhees. I didn't know, I swear." Voorhees turned away, his eyes scanning the horizon, searching. His eyes traveled in the direction of the lake, several miles away, not visible from the cemetery. Crystal Lake was tranquil, sunlight sparkling on its bright blue surface, but underneath something started rising, something white, something that moved quickly toward the surface. The hockey mask bobbed up and floated on the surface of the lake, like a face gazing up at the bright sky with sightless eyes. For a moment everything was still, utterly still, like the silence of the grave or the calm before the storm. Then the wind picked up and swept across the lake, through the woods toward the town of Forest Green. A bank of thunderheads moved in, roiling the sky, and as the shadows lengthened, the tall, dark man silently turned and left the cemetery, slowly weaving back through the maze of tombstones like a specter.
Now, that makes you stop and think, who would have been a perfect cast for his dad?
Oh, God.
I don't know why I'm picturing Sam Elliott, but I think he's a little too cool, to be his dad.
I guess what was in my mind was somebody that we've never seen before that had one of those faces like, what was his name, Julian Beck? In the second Poltergeist, was Reverend. Yeah. He just had this face that you go, holy shit. I didn't want it to be anybody that, you'd seen before. In One Dark Night, when I did the Raymar character, Tom Berman, made the Raymar character. And I didn't know until maybe 3-4 years ago that Raymar's face is actually Christopher Walken. Because at that time, he had a mold of I'm doing great today.
It's okay.
Christopher Walken, and he used that as the basis for Raymar, figuring that this was some actor that probably would never make it, and why not? So I mean that was a real surprise to me when I learned that. But yeah, as far as Jason's father, I didn't have a name for him. Elias came up later on, maybe from the cartoons. I mean, you guys may know better than I do from the comic books of Jason of Friday the 13th, that kind of dealt with his mother and all that. So I think that's where the Elias, came from. But I just saw him as, that's Jason's father. And, whether he actually was married to her or not, I kind of, had a different agenda for that, which is in the game. If you, play Friday the 13th, the game, if you get the little surprises that you pick up along the way, there's a whole sort of like radio play, but it's the mother talking about her son on the night that he drowned, and so that gives a little more insight into Jason's father.
So you wrote some of the? Are you saying that you wrote some of the Pamela tapes?
Yeah, I wrote all of them. Yeah.
Wow,
excellent.
There you set. One of my subscribers actually wanted me to ask about that, so there's your answer. Yeah, Tom wrote them. That's awesome. I love that game. I played that thing nonstop for like the first year, and then I got all butthurt when Uber Jason wasn't going to get put into it, and but I still play it from time to time. But yeah, I listened to the Pamela tapes. Those were really interesting.
There's actually a piece of that talking about Jason's dad that was we were doing an interview a week ago, and that was Final Destination. It was the week prior where they were talking about in the original script that Pamela Voorhees had a high school class ring, and it was going to be indicative that the boyfriend left her, and I'm not saying this very eloquently, but basically the boyfriend left her, and she was having to raise Jason herself. So you're supposed to get all that backstory just from the flash of the ring. It was supposed to be a subtle nod to her whole backstory just from a flash of a hand. And I didn't know if you had read any part of that or were part of any of that.
Now, you're
like I said, we all kind of create our own stories, and that kind of all falls into the mythology. And I just felt that, what I saw in the comic book of this big burly guy that beat her and caused, Jason to look deformed and all that wasn't what I had in mind. I was thinking of much more of a, thin, statuesque, evil, person that actually, as you know from reading the things, actually raped Pamela, and why she was married to Elias. And that was part of the reason that he was so, violent and stuff, because it wasn't his kid. So again, that's, something that I thought up. So it's interesting too, because just recently there was a fan-funded movie called Vengeance. And they called me and said, are you okay if we actually do Jason's father? And I said, yeah, go for it. And he goes, well, we also are going to get C.J. Graham to play, him, and we'd love you to be the caretaker at the beginning of the thing that takes care of their graves. So I said, yeah, I'm in. And, now they're going to do a sequel that was so successful, which I'll be back again, and CJ will be back again, because we're not getting the movies that, we want from Warner Brothers and New Line, and until they settle that, that lawsuit, between those guys.
But, I mean, on the flip side of that, it's because of the lawsuit that we're getting these incredible fan films. Brilliantly done with the script, and just the passion just really shows in these in a way that we just haven't really gotten in some of the movies, to be completely honest. It takes a massive amount of passion to really make these come across, perfect.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think it's great if you're a young filmmaker and you've got something that has a built-in audience and you get a chance to, try your skills any place in the world. I've seen a really, cool one from England. I've seen one from Germany, and it's just great to see somebody who just loves it, and they have, just a camera. I'm sorry, just a cell phone for the camera.
Yeah.
And they make it look great.
No budget whatsoever, just heart.
Yeah.
Well, that and drones too. Drones are great for cinematography with a lot of these.
Yeah, sure.
So I gotta ask this: your original vision was to have that ending with the with the caretaker meeting with Jason's dad. Does that? I know that like when they told you they wanted more kills for the movie or whatever. I think I saw that in an interview before. You had to you killed off the caretaker and the couple on the motorcycle because they wanted more kills. That's correct, right?
That's correct. And also when we saw Sissy get pulled through the window, but we didn't see what happened to her. So we added Jason twisting her head and pulling it. And of course, in the original version, you really saw the skin stretch, and it looked really cool, but that unfortunately got cut by the censors. So we just sort of beefed up a few things based on what, Frank Mancuso felt from the preview that we did. And I don't know how you could tell anything. It was just one solid, roar through the whole thing, as I said.
I wish they hadn't cut so much, because nowadays I don't think they would. There's so much worse stuff in movies, than that, and I know it's just there's nothing we can do about it now. But I wish that they hadn't been so like anal about all that. But I got it. What I was asking is the caretaker meeting with the father. Does this mean that the cover-up continues in your original vision for that? That the father wouldn't know what just went down since he still believes Jason's in the grave. The cover-up includes all the stuff that they're already covering up, the events of Part 6.
Well, I think they're kind of creating their own legend, with the Vengeance series, is that there is sort of a knowledge, be it paranormal, that if the father has that Jason's not in that grave, where is he? And then they kind of set out with both of them, doing kills in that movie.
Oh no, I meant before Vengeance. I'm sorry. I meant like whenever you made Part 6, since that was going to be the original ending. The father still thought Jason was in the ground. So does that mean that that they were already covering up the events of the movie at that point?
At least what was in my head is he was staring down there, and there was a sense to me was something is not right, and it was that he was already kind of picking up, Jason's not there. I mean, that was the intention, and then
that works really good with Vengeance. So yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Sean, did you have any questions about the ending with the father?
No, I mean, I thought that was an interesting addition, especially reading the novelization. You always get the problem with the novelization, and it's something I brought up in a couple of these podcasts, that some of them, it's like you almost get angry if they're too similar, but then you get angry if they're too different. It's finding that balance in this, and having that extra ending with Elias answered a couple questions that we hadn't had before. It left you wanting more. It's pretty much exactly what I would want from a novelization. It kind of reminded me of the novelization of Halloween, where they went a little bit into the backstory hundreds of years ago in Ireland, what potentially is motivating Michael to kill. So it was close enough to the movie, but it had extras that it felt refreshing. And that's
we
what I
got
like
Jason's
about
head a lot too. They put us in Jason's head in the Part 6 novelization. And
to me, that was very reminiscent about going into Jason's head in Part 2 of the novelization of Part 2, where you get to go into Jason's head in the classroom, Jason's head, especially in the 6th one. That was really interesting, seeing how he feels about being brought back to life. That was just, it was interesting, his thought process about it. It was a little primal, but it was intelligent enough that where you can understand the anger that he's going through.
Yeah, kind of like Tom was saying, he's pissed what Tommy's done to him. I did appreciate that y'all brought Tommy back as the protagonist. Was that your decision, or were you told to use that character?
I'm trying to think back on that, because I know they didn't want, there was either he was asking for too much money, or he had become Christian, or he just didn't have any interest in it. John Shepard, who played Tommy in Part 5. So I was basically told, he's not going to, be involved with it. So at that point, I thought, well, I could take this a different direction. But I sort of said, well, could we recast? And he goes, yeah, why not? So I thought, all right, well, it's nice to kind of leave on 4 with, Tommy being traumatized. There's the Corey Feldman one. And then, cut the years later, he's older and, he's still fucked up, So I think it was like, yeah, that's okay, go that way, but it wasn't like, this is what we want. And then I wanted to have, obviously, a girl involved that was really feisty and smart-mouthed, and, she was really driving a lot of the stuff, too.
Their scenes together were great. They worked really well together. That chemistry was amazing.
Yeah, they had a great chemistry. You're right.
I hated seeing the Sheriff Garris die. I think that's the one time in a Jason movie where I was like, damn it, because as a father, I get it, coming out of that bush to protect your daughter, knowing you're going to die. It's just a big thing. As a kid, I didn't get it. As an adult, I get it now.
Yeah, it's interesting how the perspective changes when you get older, particularly when you have children.
Yeah, it changes it, because you don't think it's your kid's about to die, you're going out there. But the book goes into such gory detail with this whole backbreaking thing. It's like, okay, the movie got it perfect. Don't try to Don't we get it? His back broke. Okay, just stop. Like it's so. I don't know if you've ever read any Stephen King, like Gerald's Game. You guys ever read that?
Yeah.
This how like it goes on for like 2 pages about how the handcuff is ripping the hand off. When I saw the movie, I was like, I'm not gonna be able to watch it. I couldn't even think when I read that part. I can't. But yeah, so that whole back breaking thing. I know it was an easy special effect, just having somebody, down there, or whatever. But it looks so good, and that's what I was gonna get at. And this isn't butt kissing. Out of all the Jason movies, honestly, as a whole package, Part 6 is the most consistent. With the special effects, the story, the atmosphere, Jason. Even though I love Kane Hodder's Jason, C.J. Graham was an amazing Jason. Like he really, I don't know. You can tell when it wasn't him. In the scene with the paintballers or whatever.
Yeah. Especially like the close-ups on the eye was almost like reptilian, just with the fury. Just like this, there's something not quite human about this, but almost enough human to pass off. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that was great about CJ is, he, came out of the military. So, he had that stance, he had that kind of, attention, I'm listening to orders that are going on in my own head. And so he moved, with these, very sharp moves, which we talked about. And the fact that he was electrified, to me, there was a little of that sense that he's, a little bigger than life in certain respects. And what Kane did, what I thought was so great, was the breathing that he did as his anger got bigger. But I was going, kind of a different direction with the fact that he's just been brought up more in the Frankenstein way. There's a little more stiffness, but it's strong. I mean, very, very strong.
To me, the ending, I've seen a lot of horror movies, but for some reason, the only one I have nightmares about is Jason, because he never stops. He's this hulking monster that's just this relentless force. And the scene when Tommy's in the boat and he's trying to lure Jason, but Jason just starts walking straight into the water until he disappears. That's terrifying, because he's in the boat and he knows Jason's down there, and he's looking around, and it's almost like that fear you get when you watch Jaws. But this time it's not a shark, it's a person that shouldn't be able to do what he's doing, but he is, and just that is nightmare fuel for me, just him going under the water like that, because he's just, you'd think in the water he'd be helpless, just like most people would be, just kind of awkward, but he's not. He has this cool kind of grace when he goes in, and that's a really, really powerful scene for the entire franchise. So
that's how I picture him getting to New York in Part 8, just walking on the bottom of the ocean.
I picture just like Pirates of the Caribbean when they're just walking on the bottom of the ocean to go up the boats.
I mean, he's definitely not down there scuba dive swimming or anything.
No, that would have been a good silhouette to use in the future. Just the dark shape of the moon coming through the water with this figure just walking slowly. That'd be a good scene.
That's cool. Yeah.
I would have loved.
It's funny too. Again, going back to the good old days of when these things were shown in movie theaters with audiences that were very vocal. I mean, that scene in particular, when they thought that Megan was going to get her head crushed, like the way we saw the cop, do that, and then Tommy pulls the attention away and I'm over here. I'm the one you want, maggot head, and so. People, as Jason was going, it's oh, he's in trouble now. Oh, shit. Oh, now you fool. No, and everybody yelling at the screen, and to Tommy, don't do this, and then when he disappeared, then people literally up out of their seats and moving around uncomfortable. It was just great, seeing it with a crowd that was so into it. It was a wonderful time.
I would love, if they would re-release the movies in theaters, as a special thing, when everything, clears up with theaters and we can go back to them. I would love to go back. I saw Part 3 in the theater, which sucks because Part 3 is so low on my list of favorite Jason movies. But it was still cool getting to see it on the big screen. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine seeing my favorites 6 and 7 and 10 and stuff.
They actually tried to do
I saw
something
Jason X in theaters when it came out, but I never got to see any of the other ones on the big screen besides 3. Sean, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, buddy.
No, you're good. I was just saying that there's a film center in Denver, And there was a horror group I was hanging out with, and they actually rented out the center to do a Tobe Hooper marathon. So I got to see Texas Chainsaw 1 and 2 on the big screen, and it would be great to do that because like they actually had a Leatherface there, they had barbecue, you know, they made a big night of it. And I would love for someone to host a Jason night to do some of the iconic films, because I mean, I've only seen one Jason movie in theaters, and that was the remake of Friday the 13th, which I know a lot of people have problems with, but the fact of the matter is, like, it's the only Jason movie I've gotten to see in theater, so it's gonna mean a little bit to me, as a personal thing. But oh yeah, I would love to see these movies in theater. That would be so fantastic.
If we didn't have the COVID thing going on with the whole 40th anniversary of Friday the 13th happening, I feel like it would be a perfect time to put the movies back in, like for like 2 days a piece or something, you know, like they did with like Jurassic Park and stuff.
Right.
But
that would be cool.
Yeah, you know, I'd love to see them on the big screen. But you're writing a sequel, right? Like in your free time?
It is written. It has been done now for, I don't think it's quite a year, but pretty close to it. But yeah, as I said earlier, you know, I had the opportunity to kind of, you know, continue, but I really didn't have any great ideas. And Frank offered up Jason Meets Freddy. And I went, I don't know if that would work, because Jason's seemingly in the real world, Freddy's existing in the nightmare world. You know, how does those two work? You know, and he goes, well, we'll worry about that later. Let me just see if I can get New Line, you know, to say yes. And of course they didn't. They wanted to keep Freddy with their studio. And so he goes, you know, do you have any other ideas? And I said, well, you guys own Cheech and Chong, right? What are you saying? Chong ain't Jason. And he laughed. And I said, you know, Costello with Frankenstein. I said, you know, the thing would be, you know, trying to make it still scary with them in there. And I mean, that was his main objection was that, you know, his audience, Jason audience is very different from the Cheech and Chong audience. But I go, no, everybody gets stoned together and they'd go, and I think it would work. And it only recently was kind of, you know, brought to light that was something I wanted to do. And then the next thing I heard, they started talking about, you know, doing another Cheech and Chong movie in some way. So, you know, we'll see. But
I know it's late, but here's my money for that one. You know, I'll give it all to see that movie.
I feel like they tried to do that in part 3. I think they got some guy that looked like Tommy Chong to be an ish character, but didn't really go anywhere. But I would love to see that movie. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I don't see why they objected to that. That would have been, those audiences are probably mostly the same, you know.
I mean, if they can do Ginger Dead Man versus Evil Dog, they can do that film.
Yeah. I don't know, to me, it's like the rock and roll audience, particularly the metal audience, you know, is very much part of that whole thing. And I did a whole discussion about that yesterday in an interview I did for the new big box set that Shout Factory is coming out with. So they've got so many additional, you know, features in there, and there's a bunch of stuff that I, you know, added in as well. And it was, you know, we had a whole long discussion about metal and horror and who influences who, you know, in that, which was great, you know, great fun to kind of talk about. And of course, Alice Cooper, you know, having done the soundtrack.
That was my next question. Was Alice Cooper? Was that your personal choice to ask Alice?
No, the most interesting thing about this is that we had tracked the movie with various different, you know, rock and roll songs that we knew we couldn't have, but I wanted to give the vibe for when the, you know, producers looked at it and things, and the studio looked at it. And one of those was an Alice song. And then Frank came to me later and he said, what would you think about Alice writing a song for the movie? And I went, are you kidding? Well, you know, he goes, yeah, his people contacted us and said he'd like to do that. And I said, can we get other Alice songs? And he goes, I don't know, well, we'll ask. And, you know, he was a big fan of the series, so he, you know, gave us those other songs to use, as well as writing Man Behind the Mask. Now, when in the mid-'60s, I was in a rock and roll band called the Sloths, which we've resurrected over the last 10 years or so. And I played on the same bill with Alice. In those days, you know, the band he was with was called the Nazz. And he was, Vincent from Texas. That's all I knew, and we'd hang out in the same places and stuff, but we weren't really friends. We just, were guys that were part of the rock and roll scene. So it was this kind of ironic thing of, that we had that in common. But still, to this day, I have not been in the same room with Alice at the same time to shake his hand. And it just has not happened yet, which I'm looking forward to, at some point, because I've been singing Man Behind the Mask pretty much every Halloween with the Sloths. And, I love that song. So it's great fun to sing it.
We need to make this happen, hashtag Alice shake Tom's hand. This has got to happen.
Actually, I have a funny
I don't think
story.
any hands are going to get shaken during COVID.
No, not right now. Shake his hand 2 years from now. Set an appointment.
But I kind of veered off and didn't answer your question about the script. That finally all the parts came together for me, and I wanted to make a movie that, as I was writing it, I'm sitting in a theater thinking about how I would react if I saw this. So hopefully the fans will feel the same way as me now as a big fan of the series, about the choices that I made in the script. And one of those was to set it in 1999. So we're right on the cusp of turning into the 2000, and there was a lot of fear. Has nothing to do with Jason, but it just was a kind of a strange period. Secondly, that period also has a lot of the 80s that were still kind of going through it, so we can still kind of maintain that old school look. The other thing I wanted to do was set it in the winter, so that we see Jason for the first time actually in a winter setting. I was just picturing, the breath coming out of the holes in the mask, when he's upset. That the girls that are involved with this particular thing at the camp have no idea about Jason Voorhees. They're on a, basically I'll call it a retreat. That they come up there, and so when these things start happening and they see this monstrous looking man, and they have no idea who he is, what his history is, they just need to survive. So there's a lot of things that I tried to create with different type of kills in it, different type of suspense situations, and then there's a big story twist that occurs at the end of it that does have kind of a harken back to Jason Lives. So as I said, I for the fans, I wanted to keep that sense of continuity there, and for people that never saw Friday the 13th, that the movie would still work as a great horror movie.
It kind of makes me think about all the younger kids and stuff that don't really know Jason other than just it's the hockey mask guy.
Yeah.
It's kind of that tone you're saying, like these characters don't know who Jason is, don't have any idea. They're going to find out,
Yeah.
And I like that. That would be awesome. I hope that we get to see that one day.
I do too. I would love to direct it.
Oh my God, it'd be awesome. I mean, I wish they had brought you back for 7, because I was going to say part 6.
My fault. I said no because, as I said, I didn't want to go into something where I didn't have an inspired idea.
Well, you see, with part 6, there's only a couple of the Jason movies that if it was the only Jason movie you ever saw, you could enjoy it. And I think part 6 is one of those. It's a continuation of Tommy's story, but enough of that story is explained that you can start that movie. And there's plenty of movies where the movie is about, picking up something from the past where there wasn't a movie before it, just the story. And part 6, and I think like Jason X is another one, that you can just go into the movie and enjoy it as a standalone. And that's another thing I love about Jason Lives. It's a continuation of a story in a previous movie, but you don't have to see the previous movie to enjoy it.
Yeah,
so.
we hear the backstory in a kind of a humorous way, the way Megan tells it to the other camp counselors. But yeah, I wanted it to be something. I didn't expect it to kind of be like the gateway drug into Friday the 13th, but over the years I've had a lot of people say that was the first one that I saw, and I was really young, and my parents were okay that I saw that one, and which is weird, but I guess because it had certain elements about it that was, more kind of universally acceptable. It wasn't just, a gore movie, and it wasn't just, have sex and die,
Exactly.
to have a little more story with it. But honest to God, guys, when I finished that thing, I thought the fans are going to hate me. They're going to hate I put humor in it. You know, they're just going to hate the fact that John Shepard's not Tommy, that there's no continuity, you know, and I am literally more shocked than anybody else that here we are almost, 35 years, 36 years, whatever it's been, you know, that it's been such a favorite for so many people. And that, you know, the amount of fan mail I still get, or emails and stuff. You know, I had a birthday last Sunday, and I mean, I had almost 1,000, you know, birthday greetings from all over, and I'm going, this is just bizarre. And it's mainly because of that movie. I mean, you know, it ain't me, you know.
It could have been weirder. It could have been there was one novelization of Part 3 where Jason was kind of racist. It could have gone that direction, but one thing I wanted to bring up is fun story. I went to an Alice Cooper concert a couple of years ago at Halloween, and when he did The Man Behind the Mask, there was this little girl. She was like a camper, and she was trying to ask him for directions while he was singing with like a map, and Jason came onto the stage and he dragged the camper out of the screen, and towards the end of the song, the girl comes out with a bloody machete and the mask and is just happily dancing, kind of like swinging through, and goes back behind the curtain. But that was kind of funny. It was like a nod to that.
That's great.
It seems like he has a lot of fun doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I know we didn't talk about it a ton, the novelization of the book. Novelization, the book of the movie, the novelization of the movie. But I thought Simon Hawke did a really good job taking your story and making, because a lot of these authors, I've read a lot, and I could tell, like you said, I kind of figured some of the lines being different was stuff on the set of the movie. Maybe things got changed or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've always given this movie 5 stars out of 5. If I'm introducing somebody to the franchise, I would rather them watch Part 6 first than like Part 1. I give the book 5 stars too. What do you think, Sean? 5?
5 on both accounts. It was the novelization, like I said, was close. It was close enough to the movie where I felt like I knew where I was, but it added enough new things to where I was satisfied that it wasn't just a carbon copy. And I was excited to see more of what the script might have been originally versus what we got for the movie, because it kind of shows me which direction things would have gone. So yeah, 5 on all accounts.
That's great.
Tom?
I had no input. In fact, I was surprised when there was a novelization. I went, there is? I mean, I had no idea that Simon had done this. And so when I looked at it, I had that same fear that this could be really awful. And, you know, he added so many elements, you know, to give it much more of a, you know, fuller, like you were talking about, fuller, you know, sense of story and thought processes and things, which is what makes Stephen King so incredible as a writer, is because we get into these characters' heads, and lots of times it's very hard to make a movie out of some of these things. That's why certain ones work really great and other ones just, the book was much better. You know, and that's part of it. You just can't add that element of you know, being inside someone's head as the books do.
Tom, thank you so much for coming on. And as a fan of horror movies since I was a kid, by the way, I forgot to mention this earlier. You said it. I could even play a clip here. A few shows back, I was talking about how I got into horror movies, and the way I got into it was reading Edgar Allan Poe in grade school. So when you said that earlier, that was kind of your introduction, I was like, wow, that's awesome. Because Sean, you remember me saying that, right? That was my The Telltale Heart was my introduction. And what got me into horror. So that was awesome. So as a fan of horror, slasher genre, super fan, thank you so much for your contributions to the genre and to filmmaking in general. I really hope we get to see that sequel one day. And I can't tell you how much respect I got for you and how much I appreciate you coming on here and talking to us. And look forward to having you chat with us here on the after show. So if you're listening and you're a patron, we're about to hop over to After the Slash. If you're not one yet, you can join up for really low, like $2. It helps support the channel, and you get a weekly exclusive after show and so much more. But yeah, this has been your friendly neighborhood 80s slasher librarian, Josh LaRue, saying thank you so much for listening. Be excellent to each other out there, and have a great night. Sean?
This is Sean Campbell saying, if this one doesn't scare you, you're already dead.
Anything you wanted to add, Tom?
If you like rock and roll, check out the Sloss.
Yes.
My band, we're still going. thesloss.org. We'd love to hear what you have to say about after you hear the music.
Yeah, I'll put links and everything in the description below.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
They thought the nightmare was dead.